Monday, 9:49 p.m., November 4th, 2024. A dull, gray sky, an open abyss where color goes to die. I need to go to work. I drove about picking people up for a living. A few people were attending tonight's Morrissey concert, the rarest of occasions in which he didn't cancel. One passenger was very rude. I found myself hoping for Morrissey to suffer a heart attack right there on stage, just to spite that one man. I thought about the void in my spirit that I'm currently facing on a day-to-day basis. I thought about what I wanted to make a video on next. I retreated back to my fantasy. I envisioned the unending gap that would follow Morrissey's final heartbeats in my dream. Darkness, an emptiness, intellect, Nietzsche, whole. This is a suffering that births only questions. Why is Morrissey like that? What happens when we die? What just God would give our beloved pets lifespans shorter than our own? Is it always going to be like this? This long, dark road that stretches on without end? Taking a trip soon, actually, I'm really looking forward to. This was revealed to me within a dream. Seraphic. Seraphic.
Seraphic. Seraphic.
Seraphic.
Seraphic Blue was released in 2004, a free project made in RPGMaker 2000 by the Japanese developer Tempura, translated by Epipswitch and Kamada in 2014. And it's going to fix me. Just look at that bright, cheery artwork. That could be the promo art for a show butchered in translation, censored by 4Kids. My understanding is that while roughly as niche as last video's Rekinder, it's held in high regard amongst those who've played it. It utilizes RPGMaker to lengths beyond what anyone would have expected, especially for the time. Everywhere I look, I see that it's known for having a robust and surprisingly dark story, so far as to declare it a love letter to nihilism. Nihilism. I took a worldview course freshman year of high school, in which it was exclusively pronounced nihilism for reasons unknown. A pronunciation that's followed me then onward. What could this look like? Is it as they say? Could it be what we need? That's it. This is what I've been searching for, the sacred text that will allow me to find the answers I need. I just have to uncover them myself. There's also apparently a cutscene that's an hour and a half long. Finally, a video game for adults. I only ever heard of this from seeing a list of the YouTuber Marsh's favorite games. Wait, no, it wasn't him. I'm never going to find out who it was. First, making my ignorant and unknowing way in, I'm downloading the Seraphic Blue Director's Cut, released in 2006 by Tempura, now featuring balance changes and restored content. We love content. This video can be simultaneously released on YouTube and TikTok, and on those gas station screens where the bald man tells you of good things happening in your country, but you look all around you and everything's burning to the ground. The link is down. Fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to do more digging. Oh, thank God. Pretty much expected, you can't just run these sorts of games from the get-go on Windows 11. Thankfully, the sun will explode in a few billion years, and old RPGMaker titles can be played using Easy RPG. Now, apparently I didn't do a good enough job summarizing the plot and gameplay of Rekinder or Rekinder ahead of time, so in order to not be murdered out in the street, I can try and make sure everyone's on the same page here. There's a lot more gameplay to talk about this time around. Do you see it? There's a turn order, uses action time, and it's like a timeline. Put elements on the field, enables you to use stronger spells that use that element, or some elements will honor other elements to remove them from the field. Lake. That's me. Us. The character that you play as. Okay, we know as much as each other now. I don't want to be spoiled on anything. People say it's pretty neat. I need to do this for myself. Even the title screen options have flavor. Look at that. The hand-drawn portraits here are a great touch. The definition of soul. We're presented with this young man named Fritz, forlorn and lost in thought. He's going to have to give a speech in front of someone named Siegbert. He's curious about the characteristics of angels, and it's not clear how abstract his thinking is here. Are you familiar with Fritz Heinemann or Siegbert Tarasch? Oh, right, we're on YouTube, talking about a role-playing game. Engaging with the pinnacle of art forms. This game is already waxing poetic and making vague gestures that I'll probably have context for a few dozen hours down the line. It's like it was made for me. Holy shit, he has a gun. It'd be funny if just none of these people ever showed up again. An introduction so esoteric already brings us to several questions. What's with those names? What is Seraphic Blue even about? Is God real? What's the point of anything? Why do I go on? Whatever is going on here, I'm so on board. The year is 2820. A young girl named Doris, a lady in blue. Her big sister figure. Siegbert is mentioned again, apparently dropping by soon, and it doesn't sound like he's particularly well-liked. And now we're given control, the lady in blue in a residence known as Minerva, tasked with reading books. Maybe this whole game is just reading theory. Wait, oh my god, that's Siegbert, the guy from the beginning! I think I can kind of see why people are uptight around him. I'm reminded vaguely of the someone that I sent money to for their copy of Have a Nice Life's Death Consciousness. Never got it. I guess I hope they're doing okay. This lady appears to be experiencing some sort of medical difficulties. Siegbert doesn't care at all, apparently occupied elsewhere. Oh god, that wasn't Doris after all, it was... This is a group known as the OHG. Is this just Team Rocket? So, the person disguised as Doris is... The lady with the bandana is... Don't worry about them, they're not that important, they're just kind of around. We have young man, middle-aged man. Pay attention to those. The group uses their disguises to enter the residence. Looks like there's a history between middle-aged man and Siegbert. The latter allowing the former to take his chance at abducting the lady, who actually agrees to escape. This is planned from the start, hardly an abduction. 2 years pass. Okay. I have no idea what's going on, and Turku, the town of therapy. This place is a little more in line with what I was expecting going into all of this. Coming to from a dream of his deceased mother, this is Lake. He has a chip on his shoulder, but it seems kinda warranted. Suffering from a hangover under the care of an old doctor named Langer, who generally treats his wounds taken from devil sweeping. There's some lore. Devils first appeared in the world 20 years ago. Normal RPG fare, maybe? Devil sweepers apparently tend to function as bounty hunters, going after devils with the highest rewards for killing. Which brings us to another question. Where do devils come from? Lake is a little more pure of heart than that, apparently, or at least sentimental, as he's setting off to dispose of a group of devils attacking his foster mother Ilyena's town. And here we are, I guess this is the prologue. Fading Normality. Only now can we access the menu screen. I like the presentation here. We're given a sphere that gives us access to level 1 healing magic spells. Devils appear outside the town, and Lake is tasked with disposing of them in exchange for his medical bills being waived. Even in 2822, this is the healthcare system. First battle. First person. Like Dragon Quest. Shin Megami Tensei. Doom. Ace Attorney. Halo. Video game. You don't get to see the depths of it yet, but I already appreciate how fast the battles move along. Seraphic Blue has a supplement system in which your hit points can be automatically refilled, so long as you have enough, like a reserve. Dr. Langer here works with his reputation in disarray, having previously worked for Roseburg, a company that revolutionized and monopolized modern medicine, making life and costs unsustainable for the people of this small town and their pharmaceutical industry. Hey, remember the guy that went to jail that tried to, like, super raise medication. In Seraphic Blue, though, his name is George. No E. And he made the revolutionary drug TRANQUIL G, his first big step towards dominating healthcare and, well, everything else. Given access to more of the town now, I can go for a level 1 attack magic sphere. This reminds me of Materia from Final Fantasy VII. Abilities are equipped, not always innate. Exiting the town, we see the world map and it's grooving. Arrive at Kokomo. Yeah, that rules! This town has everything! Turns out that Ileana went to the outskirts to visit the unmarked grave. This is the grave of Lake's mother. She died in childbirth, and Lake's deadbeat father left him behind in Ileana's care. He hasn't been seen since, and Lake detests him. We love abandonment complexes. Which has me wondering, what's the deal with Lake's dad? Now to the cave in the northeast, holding these devils, the Nameless Cave. These enemies are tough. You're definitely going to be getting use out of that healing sphere and supplement. It's rough. Our first boss fight, Little Demon. Oh, I died. You know, I think I'm going to grind and get better equipment. It's during grinding that I see that Lake has an ability called Hatred Edge that involves striking an enemy via Sword Slash, imbued with a swirling power of hatred. I love this. Alright, level 5, my man. Surely that's enough? You know, even when I was like 16, thought this was embarrassing. The roided up Lake massacres his way through the Nameless Cave. No mercy. These things are no match for level 5. Apparently Lake really likes killing these things. If he'd been subject to post-9/11 propaganda, it would have taken nothing to get him out there. Wouldn't even be interested in free college. He's depressed, he's bored, and he's got to get it out of his system. He still tries to negotiate for lower pay with Ileana. He's humble and generous with his time, he just really likes killing. And good old Dr. Langer is calling us back. Dr. Langer wants us to go to Turku Forest up north, where the town's pharmaceutical ingredients are gathered, to investigate for the source of the devils from earlier, as it's developed a sinister aura. Okay. Taking a detour in the forest nets us a level 1 support sphere, which I imagine will be useful for whenever we get another party member. What is that? What is that? And I died. Okay. I think I need to grind some more. A lot of the enemies in this area inflict poison. Thankfully, it doesn't stay with your character outside of battle. The CGI trees in the fight backgrounds look like they're friends. They'd come to your birthday party. A ways into the forest, we encounter a return tree, which can take you back to the start of the dungeon. Yeah, this basically has been a dungeon. I ended up just going back and forth between the forest and the town to use the inn in order to make it this far, so it's nice to know that these exist. And then a boss devil, a gargoyle. Actually way easier than everything leading up to him. Just spam heart attack, which will do more damage but pushes you farther back in turn order. Heal when necessary. Lake is tired now. What? That was the easiest fight of the dungeon. It was one guy. Just as he's about to head out, a mysterious voice calls to him. Yuichi? Yuichi? And why does he know Lake's name? He claims Lake's existence is of personal importance, that they have similar taste in taking lives? Another philosophical pondering. What's the deal with this kid? Yes, this kid's name is Ende, and there's more going on here than you might think. Can you believe that? It's not just 50 hours of clearing out forests. Is this a simulation? He summons a... What am I looking at? What's happening here? I have to fight this? This is Irmgard. Lake charges in like... Dude, you and I both know this is a scripted loss. 0 damage. Okay, let's just keep attacking. Okay, yeah, we lost that fight. Bye, Lake. Unless... Who is this? A blue-haired woman. The blue-haired woman? Vane? Jesus Christ, dude. Oh my god, she's an angel. Like, literally, look at the wings. Irmgard is whisked away and Ende retreats. Vane faints. Could this be our second party member? Lake takes her back to the doctor, immediately feeling a sense of kinship and familiarity. He describes a feeling of warmth and gentleness, like, yeah, you've probably been touch-starved. As the two head back to Turku, two black-clad figures appear at the scene of the battle and muse upon the start of something to do with something to do with something to do with the angel. Things are underway. Plot. A curse upon the blue sky. I'm scared. The long journey of the blue seraph. And I have another question. Who are those two cryptic ladies? What's happening? And title drop. Vane's wings have disappeared for the time being. Dr. Langer remarks that the only angels he'd seen before now were in Howick, the village of infant angels. What? It's actually kind of refreshing to have angels not be so horrifying. Something calls out to Vane. Another her? Something says, fate has been unfrozen. We get her last name out of this. Vane Ansbach. Even she isn't sure what's going on. Oh, great, she's lost her memories, save for Lake's name. It's Lake. And her name. That's the prologue. Here starts Chapter 1, The World of Wandering White Wings. It's looking like going all out with the seraphic trance has made her blink out, so we're taking her back to Howick. Maybe the infant angels can help, and we can learn more about this Ende kid along the way. Oh my god. More mystery people. Grayed out woman is Ofa, though she hates that name, and says it makes her feel like Siegbert is around. So she knows that guy. Magenta hair, or purple hair, is Air. They discuss Vane's amnesia, and how whatever memories are uncovered won't change how she perceives her destiny. Are these people controlling her? Are they also angels? What? In other words, who are those two cryptic ladies? No, the other ones. But also, who even is Vane? It was Ofa that had reached out to her earlier, and Air rebukes her for doing so, saying it's useless to try and break the curse. Vane's own personhood is argued over. Just what does being an angel constitute here? Lore aside, it's already looking like Seraphic Blue wants to set up a motif of opposing ideologies. Free will, predestination, other terms that I sound really interesting for bringing up. It's the how and why that's so engaging here. When I was younger, I was terrified of the idea of being predestined to go to hell, and the Presbyterian doctrine that I was in proximity to wasn't exactly the best fit for my teenage unmedicated anxiety. Not sure that many doctrines are, not to put all the blame there. But it's fine. Seraphic Blue is probably going to end up being a lovely place to be in comparison. Things should unfold in an orderly fashion. There's been not one mention of hell. And finally, we have our second party member. Whoever she is, equipped with a bow and a few magic spheres. We're checking on Ileana before heading out to Howick. Vane meets Ileana and is wordlessly drawn to the grave, where she senses the pain surrounding it. She's brought to tears. On the track to Howick, which is on the north side of the continent, there's some new monsters. Strange worm, clay bug, also just a bird. We've reached Howick, not sure how long that was supposed to have taken in-game. The duo enters Howick's church, where this pastor is arguing with an emissary over the treatment of the angels. The emissary seems to be conducting research that borders on inhumane. I'm not used to a religious authority figure being the voice of ethics anymore. The emissary works with the White Wings Laboratory under Roseburg, and the pastor, a former alcoholic, bounty hunter, and devil sweeper, is holding him at gunpoint. He's more handsome than the regular sprite would have you believe. Please join my party. Nixon Cromwell. Actually, okay, churches are normal RPG and fantasy fare, so are angels. God, even, there's plenty of overdone jokes about fighting God in RPGs, especially Japanese ones. Look at all the crosses here, though. Is that normal for these kinds of settings? I've just never thought about it. Is there a Christ in Seraphic Blue that's created a world of attractive pastors and genetic blue hair? And why didn't he do that for us? Meeting the angel children gives Vane a sense of familiarity, but no memories beyond vague snippets of old conversation. Names like Margot and Envy. I hope Envy is in reference to the band. Nixon is interested in how Vane's recollections could help him in reaching these abandoned children, and asks that we accompany him to the White Wings City of Research in order to demand better conduct from the researchers. Maybe this could help to uncover Vane's memories. Nothing's stopping us now. Devils aren't ready for the power of gun. It's Nixon time. First, we gotta head to the East Continental Port to board a ship to the next continent. Love the feeling of travel here and a bit of change in locale. There's water! And a beach. The ship is boarded and stops at Juas, the marine city. Juas is a cool setting, much more expansive than the areas thus far. There's even a museum to visit, but Lake won't go in. Maybe someday. The ship to White Wings has been vandalized, so as it turns out, there actually is some free time. Nixon and Vane force Lake to accompany them for their tourism. Museum time. There's a lore dump on the history of the city. I'm scared going through this. I don't know what I'm supposed to cling on to and take notes for. I feel like I'm back in school, but you can swear. Okay, so this Catherine lady brought attention to the existence of spirits, and her team disappeared a few years later, and people thought they went to the continent of Jues, and then the continent vanished 7 years later. Left behind in its place is the Great Marine Pit. How can I make this about me? It'd be really funny if this just never came up again. Still, what happened to the continent? And all those people? Many ships sank in the Great Marine Pit, leading to the construction of the city, a site for salvagers. Elon Musk promised to build some small submarines to make it safer to go down and extract artifacts, and then he never followed through. The city is still under construction by the corporation Robin, a subsidiary of Roseburg, following a destructive storm some years ago. The game is holding me by the scruff of my neck, looking me in the eyes and saying, "You're gonna learn about this lore." I don't mind it though, I think it's genuinely neat. Even Lake admits to having had a good time. Resting at the inn leads to more of Vane's vague memories of conversation. That Doris girl from the prologue crying over a mercy killing of some sort, a chilling shot of a bloodied Vane standing in the rain. My brother, working on the script of his review of Hulk Ultimate Destruction, looked over and went, "What the heck?"
No!
Similarly, Lake dreams of being passed off as an infant. Vane is found staring out at the sea under the night sky. And, Ofa is there too. Vane speaks of feeling drawn to the darkness under the sea. She remarks upon a scar on her wrist, serving as proof of an act of rejection. Seems like we're seeing some of her programming coming into play. Ofa seems to not want to encourage this thinking, but something in Vane feels compelled to seek death, and I'm getting very engaged here. Lake is taken aback by the scar, and Vane observes that, given the harshness of the cut, it must have been an attempt at taking her own life. Lake has his own urges, both of them entertaining thoughts of jumping in. When he first brought up the view of the water, I was getting the impression that he was concerned and just trying to distract her, but it's turning out to be a show of solidarity, and now I'm the concerned one. And rightfully so, because these people have known each other for maybe a week, they're already toxic as hell together. Thank God, literally, that Nixon interrupts and chastises both of them. Ende appears, emanating the worst aura that Nixon has apparently ever felt, and I mean, I guess he would know? Turns out Ende was the one who damaged the ship to White Wings, and he summoned monsters from the sea. The salvaging port is our next dungeon. We're advised to use fire magic on the monsters and get stuff from these green boxes to dispel the purple goo. Exploring got me a Marine Edge, a sword upgrade for Lake. Yeah, not gonna lie, it's a bit of a slog here. Lots of encounters, definitely had to do some back and forth to get through here. Many will tell you that dungeons can get a little long-winded, repetitive. The inn isn't letting me use it again, so I have to use the Resurrect Sphere. I'm scared. We make it through though, and at the end of the little maze lies Ende and his fucked up looking fish, Ortrude. He's a strong eldritch fish, but stick to heart attacks, fire magic, healing, he'll be done with after a little while. Everyone's like, "Why is that fish so fucked up? What can we do about this stuff?" And Nixon's like, let's go to bed, kids. Air and Ofa gaze out at the night sky and debate Vane's future, with Air maintaining that the outcome is preordained. No act of resistance from Vane can stop it. She only hopes everyone can look forward to savoring the delicacy of despair in hell. Considering everything we've seen so far, I'm not totally sure how literally I should take that. I guess that was our designated ominous cutscene for the segment, so it's time to finally head to White Wings. And White Wings? It's kind of a vibe. The guard isn't letting us into the lab, so this calls for walking around town until the party feels like trying again. White Wings is home to a popular tourist spot, Disaster Hill, named after the worst devil to have appeared just 10 years prior. Whereas most devils could be disposed of for pay, this thing was, well, Godzilla. And he's the reason for the land surrounding this place being a desert. This went on until the bounty hunter Lancer Cheyenne slew the devil. Must have been a cool guy. Where we're standing is the site of the battle, and that led to the formation of a nearby lab. Lancer has since disappeared. Aren't you glad we got to walk around? Devil attack! A mystery man. Another one, a hired assassin told to take Vane back with him. I should have saved before this. Why are devils working with this guy? They're not too tough. Oh, wait, each one is its own encounter. Time to fight the man himself. He doesn't look like he can do much. Look at that cloak. He can't see shit. He's inflicting a lot of status ailments, though. And that's that. They let him retreat because of past your morals. The girl's an angel. Why? And he left behind a black lion pin? Once again, this dredges up some memories. I don't know what to tell you about this. Just wait with me. Wait, there's more. A mention of Lucifer? No, wait. He's just talking about disaster, that's all. And he's the largest cancer devil in history, said to be a fusion of 3 entities. There's some political scheming going on to do with all of this and how the situation was being handled. They speak of Vene. They know something we don't, as usual. This is apparently back where those scars came from. Okay, yeah, we're getting somewhere. Time to try again at the lab. A kindly researcher manipulates the guard into letting the party in. Troy Ice Harbor. What a name. There's a large rift between his generation of current researchers and the old guard still in charge, who swear by their inhumane practices. Troy's research reveals that the angel wings are the one thing separating human and angel anatomy, and Vene suggests that angels' wings contain a kind of hidden knowledge. Angels apparently have dual personalities. Not like a split personality sort of thing, but that angels can carry echoes of other people stored deep in their minds from birth, likely from their past lives, but they fade over time. Unable to meet with the higher-ups of the lab, Nixon suggests an informant out of a bar in the town Darmstadt. Why's everyone gotta live so far apart? Lake and Vene are hesitant to let this guy keep going with them. He's got a church to worry about, but he insists that this is his path to walk. You can see Lake starting to be kinder here, like the rest of the party is rubbing off on him. Shops, which apparently are consistent across all towns in the game, have updated their stock, so that means everyone's due for an upgrade. Meanwhile, in Turku, the OHG is snooping for information about Vene. Do you remember them? I hardly did. I've been sick on and off while recording. The enemies on this continent are a bit tougher, but there's Darmstadt, home to the main office of Roseburg Enterprise, the skyscraper. Now to go to the bar, Maxim's Gunholic. Oh. Maxim isn't here, so that calls for seeing the sights, like last time, and the time before that. Gorgeous, great-looking water. Nixon explains the etymology of skyscraper. I'm smugly writing about that, and then, well, yeah, this is the Tower of Babel. Oh. Or, at least, it's a new one that's supposed to resemble the one from the myth? That's how people are speaking of it. Yeah, that's worth stepping out of the bar for. Maxim's like, "Yo, Nixon!" There he is. This guy's cool. So this emblem belongs to a group known as the Black Leos, an elite hit squad led by George Roseburg. Hey, that makes sense. Still unclear why Lake and Vene were targeted, though, as they're not part of a union. And so, the gang resolves to kill George Roseburg. Yeah, okay. And it just so happens that Maxim has information about his assassination coordinates. He's setting out for an event at Mendoza, the heart of Gaia, another location. A small village following what is known as Gaia theory, in which the planet is viewed as a form of life. They have a big tree that they worship called Laurentia, because they view it as the planet's central life. It seems like a big PR stunt to try and appease the environmentalists, so why is this being kept secret? Whatever, let's kill him. It's Mendoza time, except that there's yet another village and a cave along the way. It's all part of travel. Meanwhile, Roseburg is shown speaking with an underling about a severe punishment for the failed assassin, as in, feeding him to the children. Could he mean angels? More new characters, Heidi and Fyodor. They're working on something ominous under George's orders. Look, man, we'll find out later. Roseburg seems to have quite the martyr complex about how lonely it is at the top. Near Ravenna, the next town before Mendoza, and there's a cat. We know a thing or two about those. And Vene remembers receiving a cat on her 12th birthday, and she killed it with a hammer. SERAPHIC Blue's a dark game. Ravenna used to be quite the attraction due to its beautiful, crystal-clear lake, before the negative effects of industry had a say in it. Strange, though, that Vene remembers that, oh, okay, yeah, flashback. Here she was with a man? Lake comforts her. She remarks that he's very kind-hearted, and he decides he will become worse, actually. This is referred to as avoidant attachment style. Nixon realizes that this recollection of Vene's indicates that she would now be at least 40 years old. I wasn't personally taken aback by this. I mean, I'd figure that angels would age differently. Is that not what's going on here? Apparently that's not standard for angels in this world. She still claims to just be 22. Meanwhile, middle-aged man is still on the case, tracking Vene with his cohort Kane. And they seem to know more about what's going on than we do. Everyone does. It's here that we learn that this guy's named Iwan, or Ewan. We're gonna say Iwan. We're here now at the underground cave, the next dungeon. It's pretty straightforward, not too long, but the enemies are tough. I went back to the end just once due to getting worn down and running out of supplement while grabbing the optional items. At the end is this big golem. Look at that guy. This guy is actually really hard, like, he can one-shot everyone here, and I'm struggling. It was Thanksgiving, football was on, and I was grinding levels off screen, thinking to myself, okay, this is kinda dull, and I got level 2 healing spheres from the shop. Let's just try again. Wait. Much like what the characters of the game are prone to muse and wax philosophical about at some point in this lengthy game, God is testing me. More likely, Seraphic Blue is testing me. Remember the Matador fight in Shin Megami Tensei 3, Nocturne, where you have to use stat buffs to survive? What? You didn't play it? You're about to rob a gas station. Alright, I've been going too hard. Specifically, my insistence upon hard defense. Utilizing normal defense, the character's next turns will come up sooner on the battle's timeline, allowing time for more healing and readying for the golem's next attack. Keep Lake on the offensive while the rest play support, and the boss will figure out that he isn't wanted. We can all take a cue from that. Ende meets with a shadowy mystery figure, and they, allude to things, and something about a pre-production stage. Who's this annoying thing that needs to be disposed of? Is it me? And of course, who is Ende working with? The party's greeted by a large crowd of people when getting into Mendoza, and hey, that big tree's looking pretty cool. I wonder how Nixon feels about Gaia Theory. Maybe it's a liberal hoax? The village elder recognizes the party and proclaims them to be the chosen ones. Man, come on, these Mothra fairy type people showed up to let him know in advance. Still easy to get into here, so thanks. The elder doesn't know anything about the head of Roseburg heading here. Strange. Conspicuous, even. Staying at the inn, Nixon plays counselor with Lake and gets him to apologize to Vene for being so aloof. And, being a fucking dick. George is here, and there's nothing observational about it. He's coming for that big tree. Sounds urgent, but it actually means the elder is going to tell us about Gaia Theory. There's even visual aid. It's best to just show it. Kind of like the live stream in, you guessed it, Final Fantasy VII. Seraphic Blue is explaining reincarnation to us. Nixon's just like, yeah, that makes sense. Long story short for right now, you live, you die, your spirit goes to the big tree. It gets cleansed of memories, and most of the time, your spirit goes back to another body. Laurentia is the powerhouse of the cell, and the elder notes that the soul stream seems to have been weakening over the years. George was probably powering NFTs and AI-generated art with the tree by now. Fuck, he just laid off his entire visual design department. He's meeting with, an unspecified figure in the tree. I don't know. We're about to enter that big tree, just look at it! To everyone's surprise, there are monsters here that mean to do us harm. Specifically, a killer mantis. He can do some damage, but he's not nearly the test of patience that the golem was, which, as it turns out, is because this is a regular encounter and not a boss. Still, though, why is there anything dangerous here to begin with? These guys think it's Ende in league with George. You see that there? That's the soul stream. This is what the Unabomber stood up for. There's some great monster designs here, though. I wish there was a save point at the start. I'm trying to take a break. As of recording, it was a holiday. People are showing up. There we go! You have to fight this python that comes for this flower, or maybe that is the flower. I'm not sure. Technically a boss, but not terribly tough. Just wail on him and use earth magic. Gotta fight another one of these, though, and that's a lot harder. This is when level 2 attack magic starts being really useful. You have to fight another python? I really hope that's the last one. Finally, we get there. George and his crew are acting like they've just been hanging out waiting. Oh, hey, Ende's there. So it's George that he's working with. Let's go with that, yeah. And he lets on that, yeah, he and Vene have met before, and he just needs her spirit. Whatever that means. He's sending his daughter into the fray. She looks a lot cooler in the cutscene art than she does with her overworld sprite, but that's just the way it goes. Why does she resemble Lake's mother? He apparently remembers her face from when he was born. Sure, man. Still, things are moving. I'm with it. Lake's like, she's not really my mom, let's kill her. But of course, why does George's daughter look like Lake's mom? What's the connection? Virginia is strong. No elemental or status weaknesses. Most of her attacks hit the whole party. Healing is necessary every single turn. She seems to target Vene with her one-hit kill move, Cut in two. Yeah, it'll do that. She starts doing it over and over while I'm wailing on her whenever I can. Thankfully, though, this is where the fight ends. Ende mocks her weakness, referring to her as a Valkyrie fake that George raised. He summons 3 more gigantic monsters, drops all of the bodyguards from the cliff, still finding the time to speak of cruelty and innocence stemming from the same recesses of the heart, stating that his cruelty allows him to be his true self, self-serving declarations of individualistic, self-serving declarations of self-serving declarations of self-serving declarations of individualistic. He's pondering the different ways in which to torture Lake, to feed him to Vene, to derive the maximum amount of suffering possible from their executions. He keeps talking about piss and shit. I don't know if at this point it's really dark or just edgelordy or just the nature of the words being used here in this translation giving me pause. Instead, he holds Lake off the cliff, wondering if he'll survive the fall, and apparently there's reason to believe that he could, citing an incident that led to people speaking of him holding a certain significance. You know, if it gets me some answers on what all this is that keeps being alluded to, then yeah, and they just drop him off the cliff. Go ahead. Go for it. And he does with a goodbye, Mr. Angel, to Vene's dismay. George rejoices that his loathsome kin is gone. What? And let's tangle this up even more. Look who's arrived. Just when they're about to go at it, forces unseen, the prophets hold Ende back. My head is swimming. Lake could be dead. Also, who or what is Lake really? Apparently. Lake's mom is George's daughter. Apparently, Elon had something to do with all of that, somehow. It's not getting my questions answered, it's getting my questions underlined and re-emphasized. Further eldritch abominations have been brought into the world by the world's worst child. All I can think is, am I getting 2 new party members? Vene can feel what little of a new normal she'd finally become acquainted with leaving, in exchange for her old self. Even her feelings towards Lake are coming to change. Vene is mourning. Lake is lost in the soul stream. Lake isn't Lake. In between, searching himself. The prophets spell this out for him, and us. He wants to continue holding his feelings towards Vene, admitting that it connects him to something deeper than he can know for himself. Lake is alive. He recognizes something in her that he wishes to find answers for. Before this sequence, I had started to suspect something about the nature of their relationship beyond just enabling self-destructive behaviors, and that notion sank further in here. A body is detected, a singular luminous being, a main body, a seraph of light. Watching, reading, writing, I can observe myself becoming more enthralled with the potential of what's on the horizon. I'm shedding my gentle, well-intended, measured, sneering airs I'd put on in the name of fun. For the moment, at least. I've enjoyed everything, but maybe Seraphic Blue is elevating itself beyond what we've seen. It's been abundantly obvious that what's been going on is yet to be out in the open. I wasn't sure until now that it would be to my surprise. Chapter 2. Here lies the cold droplets. Cause and effect, beloved or nothing. Lake awakens next to a river in Iqaluit, the village of remoteness. A different continent. He's confused, claiming that there are only the west and east continents. The old man informing us is the same of the south and north continents. Just an old man. Just an old man. Go on, old man. Run along. No. I said go. No, run along. I don't need you. Where has Lake gone to? A young man at the town's inn informs Lake of a strange-looking pair coming through and heading for the nearby waterfall. Taking them to be travelers, Lake recognizes the importance of having other party members, thank you, and decides that the waterfall is to be his next location. New items are available in the shops, and man, some of these seem like major upgrades. There they are. Hey, green hair. This big guy is Hausen, and she's Minerva. Where have we heard her name before? He's her bodyguard, and despite his protests, she accepts Lake's awkward request to accompany them. Hausen observes Lake's spirit and... Okay, cool, there are party members again. The town of Rutherford is their destination, but not before pursuing knowledge from Envy, the city of entertainment. Think New York or Las Vegas, seedy underbelly and all. Little Rock. The way these 2 new characters operate is interesting. Minerva can't equip higher level healing spheres for now at least, but can for offensive magic, and she seems to have access to her own useful healing spells anyway. Her physical attacks are terribly weak. Hausen, on the other hand, is basically a full-on barbarian with his usage of heavy weapons, but has a personal ability that specifically will fully resurrect and heal Minerva at the cost of half of his own health. That's gonna happen a lot. I suppose the intention here is a glass cannon with someone looking over them at all times. I have to say that I'm fond of the idea and how it could work here. Envy. A beautiful square. Doesn't look so bad up close either. We're heading straight to the hotel. Not the inn, the hotel. What other modern conveniences could this new world hold? Minerva wants to visit the, well, slums, known as Chaos. Maybe she's a prank YouTuber. Lake agrees to scout the place out first in order to make sure it'll be safe. Chaos. Yeah, not the best looking place. NPC here warns me to be careful. Says that there are predators about. Other prank YouTubers have already breached the scene. Talking to Bandana Man here leads to a fight over my hard-earned money, but that's why Lake conceal carries. A flyer on the wall cheerily recommends ending your own life via a few different popular and scenic spots. All that's going on and the big shots of envy are just like, yeah, keep it over there in your corner, we don't care. Housen's anxieties are validated when Lake gets surrounded by these punks, the meat maniacs. You can tell by their purple attire. They're cannibals. Their boss looks like, well, yeah, he looks like that. Mr. Meatalicious. I didn't write this. He's gonna show me the power of meat. Well, tell your boss if he says he's got beef that oh. Okay, he practically one-shots me. I try this several times. I cannot skip the cutscene leading up to the fight. It's cumbersome. I look it up. I buy these from the shop. What a solution. I still need to grind. Oh my god, they won't let me leave. Oh my god. Okay, I've done it, and it only cost all of my healing items. This was just awful. Graciously, the remaining meters allow me time to use some items if I so please. Even save the game. Maybe they aren't so bad after all. But no, this section is terrible. Genuinely awful. I hated it. I actively hate it. The worst part in the game. 5 consecutive fights, miraculous health restoration between each one. That's the only bit of grace offered here. You have to just keep handing out heart attacks. You're gonna want fire defense and the tactical sphere that doubles elemental effects equipped. You're gonna hope you don't miss. You're gonna hope the bandits don't blind you. You're gonna they don't poison you. You're gonna hope you don't get diseased and then become unable to take them out in a single hit. You're gonna hope you pass away before you get to a dozen attempts with this. I wish I had just spent a few hours leveling up Lake. I wish I could have. What were they thinking? Oh my god. I had started the sequence at 9 at night. It was 10:50 when I finished. I lucked out with enemies missing during some of the fights, and even then I got out by the skin of my teeth. Fuck this sequence. Out from the alley emerges a pink-haired citizen, and Lake is just like, God damn it, a woman? This is Foxy. And no, she's not a cannibal. On the contrary, she protects Lake from another meat freak out on the vengeful prowl. Also, she, gets paid by people to, for services. I don't know what I'm able to say on here. Lake is super cool about it. Way to go, man. You never know how he's gonna react, I guess. Foxy's impressed with Lake getting as far as he did. She doesn't know about my multitudes of failed attempts at surviving the gauntlet of mediocrity. My head genuinely hurts. Lake's experience as a Devil Sweeper only garners her confusion, as it turns out that there aren't devils about in this world. Foxy is really interested in Lake and his aura, and she makes a long effort to take it for a spin. Still, Lake is basically all, I don't really like girls typically, also I'm kind of fucked up. Like I said, aura. Ende's voice can be heard, causing Lake to run outside, a total anxious mess. He needs to get back to the party, and Foxy is keen on seeing where that vibe of his takes him. So let's go, another party member to add to the crew. Minerva has a pretty high and mighty reaction to the new recruit's profession and background. Guess not everyone's a cool guy like Lake. She's a resident of Chaos, though, the place that Minerva specifically wants to study, so there's a bit of a lesson given here on how people come from all walks of life. Material conditions have effects on lives led. Don't be a dick, etc. Minerva's stark position turns out to be necessary to the story, revealing that, quote, natural mating is outlawed. Procreation, that is. Children born are outright abandoned. This is not a plot point that I expected, but putting a pin in that, which is to say, breeding. What's the deal with it? The move now is going back to Chaos and killing Ende. Also, pretty sure Housen is a robot. I'm not joking. Look at this lion. Just look at it. Sure enough, there's Ende, so I guess he's followed Lake to where or whatever this is. He's a bit further into Chaos, a section known as the Streets of Rot, which is conveniently blocked off by this magical blue barrier, which is conveniently operated by some lady named Margot, who we conveniently are to find and request assistance from. Entering the shop, which is conveniently just to the left, Lake is surprised at the sudden abundance of technology. Relegated to landmarks and modern marvels in his world, it's apparently commonplace here. Tinkering with a nearby computer reveals a list of raw bodies manufactured. Talk about Planned Parenthood. No, this place just makes stuff like corpses so that people can appreciate them, since that's not something that's socially acceptable anywhere else. like in real life. People here would wish to kill their lover in order to enact this. Instead, requiring just a strand of an object of desire's hair, Margot's lab lets someone carry this out without getting their hands dirty. That's what she's called, Margot the Dream Seller. Do you want me to make a fucking joke? Raw bodies are bodies without souls. You know, like corpses. Naturally, this production is illegal. The practice is overlooked here so as to have less dead wives. You get it, harm reduction. Margot, the heart of the economy, the glue that holds this lovely community together. Minerva's parents are going to be so pissed when their daughter comes back a member of the radical left. There she is, the medical master. She's old. She knows housing somehow, but doesn't let that on until she's deactivated the barrier and we're out of the room. As it turns out, the Streets of Rot area is actually the next dungeon. A short dungeon. Here we are with a full party at our disposal for the first time. Feels like I'm dropping training weights. I'm still gonna level grind some more after that meat gang fiasco. Lake is just not having it with Ende. Just look at one of the best lines in the game so far. Minerva remembers where she'd heard Ende's name before. He's the practitioner of Gaia cancers. Ende is giving the planet cancer, literal cancer, multiple. As people try to eliminate them, the cancers are retaliated by creating Ende in order to shatter the soul stream and lead to a state known as chaos. With a K. Think about that though, being cancer is literally just Ende's nature. What is your landlord's excuse? Look! There's one. Now we finally have a name for these freakish looking things. This fight is tough. Constant dishing out of attacks that hit the whole party with tons of status effects. Not nearly as bad as recent affairs though. Having Foxy use the ability Winddresser enables her to dish out a lot of hits. Putting Minerva on full-time healing duty makes this pretty manageable. Lake mentions Laurentia when speaking to Ende. This indicates something that Minerva and Hausen find incredibly surprising. Lake is a human and possibly the main body. The two wings have been identified. They know about Yuan rescuing Vene in the beginning of the game. I don't know what's going on, I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Margot is catching up with an old affiliate by the name of Donald. Oh, is that the old man? They speak of someone named Catherine of Jewess. This demands another of life's great questions. What's with these old people? Wait, someone on Discord asks if they can use their portal to get to her store. More old acquaintances. Are we gonna meet them? No, okay, not yet. That's fine. A dark figure in a lab somewhere undisclosed speaks of Beta 1 and Beta Special, of the two keys to controlling the minions traveling together. Do you know that Seraphic Blue has its own in-game dictionary? Revelstoke Mountains. That's where we're supposed to be going. Away from debauchery and onto the scenic route. Check out this flying frog. This area also features Sasquatch. Here's two of them. Some of these guys are pretty strong. I'm really glad to have a full party at this point. Getting through the mountains, Minerva brings up that they've been traveling a while now, and yeah, thanks, and suggests that they set up camp for the night. Lake is caught up to speed on this Rutherford town. It's swelled with people volunteering their services to the OHG, which was set up 7 years ago, in this world, which is called Fezite. We're getting more information now. It's an exposition camp. Lake really just needs to come clean at this point. It's getting ridiculous. Me, personally, I would have been so traumatized by the ordeal with the meat gang that I would have been spilling everything non-stop afterwards. One of my own questions is getting answered though. The OHG is a group founded by Yuan. They aim to eliminate all Gaia cancers. Organization for Healing Gaia. Okay, thank you. Oh shit, I'm getting another abbreviation explained. The CMGC is older than the OHG, but also wants to do the same thing. Committee to Take Measures Against Gaia Cancers. Their army is referred to as the CMGC Arms. Not well regarded by the common folk. Imagine that. Remember in Shin Godzilla how every time the characters would try to get something done, they just have to go through a ton of red tape, switch rooms, hold more meetings? Or maybe you've just actually had to live under incompetent higher-ups. Probably that. I felt dumb for not keeping all this straight. I suppose it wasn't exactly laid out until now. The government has actually been trying to eliminate the OHG due to the damage that they've added to their reputation. Doesn't help that the OHG apparently kidnapped someone believed to be government personnel a few years prior to this, but the nature of this is disputed. Is this referring to the beginning with Yuan rescuing Vene? We're seeing more of Minerva coming to the reality of the outside world, even if her background isn't entirely apparent yet. Minerva and Foxy get the opportunity to talk one-on-one, and the latter speaks of her not being able to have children, opening up about having to get an abortion at 20, going on to have an ovarectomy, when the sentiment is so often, those poor people shouldn't have so many kids if they can't afford to feed them. It's easy to say, why bring kids into the world just to suffer? The descriptions here are visceral, hard to read. This is the only game I've ever played that has covered something like this, and honestly, fantasy setting aside, it's being handled with a lot of sympathy. It certainly isn't something I expected to be writing about, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how it's handled. Hausen steps away from the camp into a concealed base. He's giving a report. I'm uneasy. He is being escorted to the place of those two. Something far beyond creation will arise alongside the Seraph's birth as this long fate comes to a conclusion. We're never getting past these vague utterances of unspecified people and events. The girl and woman in black, those two. Hausen discloses that he served them years ago, long before he came to guard Minerva. Going down the mountain, what a sight. The hike comes to a stop when we come face to face with a crowd of devils. Oh, no, these are Lucifers, that's subtle. And they're the result of defective children, not sure what Foxy means by that. And Minerva is the queen of the land, and prom's tomorrow. These things are dispatched by, well, another mystery figure because she's one of the 2 keys to operating the world. The other's Lake. The voice on this thing is coming from an electronic speaker, and Lake thinks the modulated voice belongs to George. And the voice is like, no, I know who that guy is though, but nah, he's not me. Honestly, aside from being sequential, these fights are kind of easier than the random encounters atop the mountain. That is, until the big boss, Chimera Blasphemy. Look at that design, it's just spectacular. Everything about it screams, this should not exist. Put it out of its misery. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring when not going through this game, and this boss would fit right in. It's all about patience and just hanging in there. Any physical attacks are going to have you slapped right back. And yeah, we're going to call this thing a man. Whole shtick is changing up vulnerabilities on you. Use enemy data to see what his elemental weakness is, and use magic according to that until he switches up again. Whoever isn't attacking needs to be healing everyone up as much as possible. Okay, so yeah, I was kind of right about Hausen. He is a magic doll whose purpose is to protect. Out of fear of a coup from the government's internal affairs department, he and Minerva are seeking out the OHG for refuge, with their friend and political ally Daisy taking on the role of acting queen, keeping watch for them from the inside. As Lucifers are apparently quarantined in this world, could it be that someone from the internal affairs department set them free? More pressing to me, at least, is the fact that it's admitted Lake is deliberately being kept out of the loop on who he really is. A shrug, we're not in the position to tell you these things. Thanks! I'm confused too. Airship. Roanoke, belonging to none other than the OHG. I was hoping this meant we were getting scooped up. We're not. They're heading elsewhere. Lake's as exasperated as I am. Ruthford! There it is, and there's a bridge. A moat. The people here really don't seem to like the volunteer hunters. These city folk keep calling them filthy. Well, let's do what we came here for. This receptionist here recognizes Lake's name. Maybe we're about to get some answers. Apparently it's a big deal that Lake and George know each other. There's mention of a blood relation, and an incident from a few decades ago involving George's daughter, Syria. Oh, really? Lake yearns for Vane. That's it, he wants answers. Finally, the OHG headquarters. It's roomy enough. It's nice. Get talking. To start, Minerva states that Lake is a human, a person from the world of ground. This comes as a surprise to Foxy. The people in this world are Serahumans. Once again, there are visuals that do the heavy lifting here. Remember Gaia theory? The talk of the cycle of life? Souls coming out, entering a body, life is lived, the soul is purified, returns, loops back around. A Serahuman is what happens when the soul leaves the body of someone, a human, and in an interruption of the cycle, then enters a second body, the Serahuman, who will retain some knowledge of the soul. This information is buried for most, but those of a high intellect retain that knowledge and put it to use. This is why things in this world are a little more high-tech. Of course, a body doesn't have the capacity for all of these memories, buried or otherwise, which is the function of the extra body organ that physically differentiates these people from regular humans. The feathers. Oh, yeah, I was wondering. Serahumans are angels. Now we're getting somewhere. Minerva knows who Vane is, and is informed of her wings appearing back when this all started. That is a state referred to as seraphic trance, which we know. And it normally can kill someone who enters it. Was Vane just able to maintain control? Or is there something at work keeping her from dying? Minerva declines to spill on how she knows Vane, but answers a question I found a little more pressing. Fezite isn't a parallel world. It's part of the world. It's in the sky. The celestial continent. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Lake has never just looked up and seen this floating continent before because of the existence of a celestial border. Yeah. Okay, that makes yeah. And the sea surrounding Fezide is this border, which answers the question. Further exposition tells us that Vane came down to Turku Forest through what is known as a celestial tunnel. So Lake's like, oh, okay, that must be how I arrived straight from Laurentia. Wrong. Stop thinking that you're figuring anything out, you didn't, dumb shit. There's more going on. There's always more going on. Lake passed through the border, cleanly even, and guess what? We're not going to be told about that right now. Also, Fezite has been around for about 60 years and was founded by First Queen Catherine Fezite from the Rio explorers, so that starts to explain what happened with the Joess continent. Which starts to answer the question. Ende convenes with the mystery figure over the progress coming along from Lake and George. This evil silhouette has a wife who thought up a lot of whatever plan is being followed here. And his boy. Cool, we don't know the identities of this man or his family. Hey, at least we get this line. A change of scenery back down to the world of ground. It's the men. Ewan explains to Nixon that angels appearing down in Hawick were from Margot creating an illegal celestial tunnel to dispose of children born to women in the slums of Chaos, which is positioned just above. That's where angels come from. This is a tightly kept secret, but Nixon has a right to know, seeing as he's caught up in this plot with everyone else. With her memory recovered, Vane is disillusioned and holds resentment towards her time spent blissfully unaware. Time that could have gone towards serving her purpose that is yet to be made totally clear in the story. But I'd say it's obvious enough that she's also lying to herself about her feelings towards the time journeying with Lake and Nixon, resigned to her fate as a tool of the powers that be, and the differences here between her now and the her we've known up to this point are already glaring. Back to Vane's mind space, something like that, I'm not sure. There's discourse over her return to her former self, whether or not there's any merit to her amnesic days. Oh, it's heated. Errors, short for game-er. These two halves really don't get along. Alright, here we go, back in Vane's shoes. I love when games do this, shifting perspectives during narrative heights as the stakes only continue to rise, playing as the new party members to join up the rest of the crew with Earthbound, controlling Tifa while Cloud is comatose in a wheelchair in Final Fantasy VII. I swear I've played other RPGs, I just don't remember other instances of this right now. The monkey in Mother 3. Ewan and Kain have joined the party. Ewan is a sword fighter, seems familiar enough. Kain is an explosive expert. He's equipped with a knife, like Foxy. He can use level 3 attack spells. I don't know, man. We'll see what he's like in combat. I don't know how long he'll even be around. I was trying to get this item by the stream, just out of reach. Crossing the bridge, this old woman crones on about how, since the stream surrounds Laurentia, it's pure and nourishing and that she's never once contracted a major illness. It seems to be growing weaker, though. Okay, lady, I'm trying to see if I can get this optional item, and yeah, you just hop across these rocks. It's extremely rewarding. A reviver. This thing here will automatically revive a character once per battle. I had no idea something like this would even be in the game. Back on the overworld, pass back through Ravenous Cave, go through also Ravenous Cave. Upon exiting, Vane is overtaken with memories we have no context for. Ewan is trying to comfort her. Syria isn't here anymore, you're you. This is getting a bit more complicated again. It's the same Syria as George's daughter, whose soul still lingers in me. Listen, I'm just as ignorant as anyone else at this point. Clearly, Vane is a vessel of some sort. We've already seen Opha and Air speaking within her, or perhaps Vane is the life of Syria's soul afterward. Seeing as she is an angel, I think I know what the reveal is here. It's probably obvious by now. Hell, it's basically been stated already, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. No need to undercut the storytelling. Back to White Wings, through Joess, alright, East Continent, and Hawick. Only to be greeted with dire news. The children grew suddenly ill, sprouting black wings and then merging together into a devil. This priest wonders how God could even exist after the experience. A noise erupts, the party runs outside, and the children's form has merged with a Gaia Cancer to form a Cancer Devil, Sarah. The first S-Class Cancer Devil since Disaster 10 years prior. The saddest boss battle so far, no contest. Nixon's Rosario snipe ability of the light element is really useful here in a case of tragic irony. Sarah has some attacks that can nearly one-shot party members, but they're seldom used. This is supposed to feel more like a cruel ordeal than another mandatory fight to survive. The children laid to rest, Nixon turns his gun on Yuan, enraged at the Sarah humans forever abandoning these children in the first place. He has a point there. There's no choice but to leave Nixon behind in his anguish. Left alone, he cries out, and the screen cuts with the sound of a gunshot. Having reached Fezite, Margot is informed of what just transpired and finally decides to no longer send children down to Hawick. Vane, Ewan, and Kain rushed back to the OHG headquarters, leaving those two old people to utter more vague musings. We really still don't know a whole lot about this Donald guy, do we? Aboard the Roanoke, Vane speaks of reaching the conclusion that there can be no God in a world like this, something Ewan finds objectionable. He's concerned that people would have no meaning in life believing something like that. Seraphic Blue is starting to show his teeth again. An account of Vane's still rather vague background, a man from her past giving her a cat for her birthday, as he's done every year. It's not as innocent as it sounds, if you remember. They've all passed away soon after, and there's a purpose to it. He tries forcing her to kill this rescued stray cat with a hammer. It's that, or he puts it in a gas chamber. Using the hammer is cruel, but it's also giving the animal the easy way out. It's a less painful way to go instead of a slow, agonizing death. Live slightly longer and suffer, or go out none the wiser. Feeling guilt and sadness at having committed the act, She's told that having a heart is to blame for these responses, and the solution is to shut it off. Heavy-handed, maybe, but we're seeing part of why Vane is the way that she is, and more importantly, we're getting to the real question that Seraphic Blue wants to answer, or at least the question that it wants to leave you with. Still frustrated at being left in the dark on so much, Lake decides to ask Foxy some questions. Halcyon is in front of her room, and the two just start calling each other names. It's pretty mean-spirited. We get to learn a little more about why it's illegal for serahumans to breed, which, yeah, kind of makes sense after just having to put down that monstrosity in the last hour. So instead, think like real-life in vitro fertilization. The reason for this here is that a spirit isn't going to just pass on to its second body in the cycle from this. A spirit is linked artificially because, well, they can do that up here. It takes place within the Fezite Garden, floating directly above Laurentia. This just sounds like something that's going to go wrong, but okay. It sounds like, other than conception being different, they're physically indistinguishable from other serahumans. So they can still turn into monsters, they still often get dumped down below. It's just that their origin is government approved. Serahumans are a new species, it's population control. There's a feeling of disconnect between these people and Gaia. It leads way to an increasing divide between the body and soul, the link referred to as excess. This mainly takes place during earlier stages of life, and that those afflicted are referred to as defective infants. Adults can get it too, though. Defective Serahuman Infant Syndrome, or Lucifer Mutation Symptom, is the final stage of this, leading to the formation of Lucifers, or referred to on the ground as devils. The one physical commonality shared between all of them being black wings. They've reached the ground as a result of overflow after Fezite's attempts to euthanize them failed, opting instead to send them below through celestial tunnels. Listen, if all this seems like a lot, it's because it is. Even if the ideas aren't as complex as they could be, it's a lot of exposition to be given and for me to reiterate. The game is kind enough to provide visual aid, and clearly this is all going somewhere. We're getting questions answered, so let's just see what everything has to say. You probably watch lore videos, right? FromSoft Theory playlists. Think of it like that. I'm the Seraphic Blue lore master of YouTube by default. Let's pat ourselves on the back as another question is answered. You'd expect Lake to be infuriated by this, given everything we've seen, but he proves to be just a little more three-dimensional than that, citing that he'd likely be going the same route in Fezite's position, and that bad luck is the real thing truly at fault. Arguably reductive of him, but alright, he's already known to be jaded. This is the primary source of Minerva's exile, though, as while she wants the governing bodies to explore other methods, further research, advanced euthanasia, cloning, anything, other officials are content to continue using ground as a landfill. Those poor kids are valued as little as E.T. on Atari. Her thinking of basically not fucking over humans forever is the faction of coexistence, while the other half of Eternal Affairs makes up the faction of dominance. Yeah, we're cool people with wings that are interruptions in the natural life cycle, the apex predators. Fuck humans, man! Unsurprisingly, most officials are thinking that way. You know, I'm writing this right as extreme fires overtake Los Angeles. The gang's all here! God damn it, I really hope I don't need to worry about party formation, but look at these two finally getting to reunite. Ewan is Lake's father! Which answers the question. I saw it coming, you saw it coming, it was telegraphed to hell and back, but here it is, father-son action. Similarly, confirmation from Vane that she bears the spirit of Syria Roseburg. A spirit unique and strong enough that Vane retains some memories of her past life more than the average Serahuman would. The experience is more akin to archives to read than experiencing the same feelings they elicited in this previous life. Is this the script's way of saying not to feel too bad if you've perceived a romance between these two? So where does Lake come from? Why is he here? Where is Watson when all of this is going on? Why is he named Lake? For that, we need Professor Donald Houston,
the discoverer of Gaia cancers,
former advisor to the CMGC, and now researcher for the OHG, and the person Lake had spoken to when he first came to in Fezite.
I don't need you.
Project Seraphic Blue. Gaia cancers are ravaging the planet. Armed forces never seem to make a dent. The one solution researchers could see would entail something that could affect Gaia as a whole, a last-ditch effort. The proposed method entailed the crossbreeding of a human and a Serahuman, a change in natural law and a rise in energy so great that it could potentially slaughter every Gaia cancer in existence. This process triggered by contact made between the specimen and Gaia's body, a phenomenon dubbed Gaia's rebirth. More than 300 lives were lost in the efforts made attempting to force such a crossbreeding, and the team instead began to select Serahumans to send down to ground to live like humans, intermingling to lead to natural conception. Yeah, that's probably the better idea. Ewan was the successful candidate, or agent, womanizing and going through the motions, only to end up falling for Syria. And tell me why Lake only just now realizes that his mother shares a name with George Roseberg. Like, if you've had to take in a lot, if you were being told about how there's a cluster of cells within your heart that can single-handedly reverse climate change if you wipe out an oil tycoon, and that your situationship had the soul of your mother, whose real name, by the way, is Rosa Trump, you'd be like, wait, Trump? Oh shit, is that guy my grandfather? George was selected by Fezite as the middleman for their meddlings with ground. Tranquil G was invented by Fezite and tested on the small town of Turku. George was given the image of a great inventor, a mascot essentially, and only after the initial success did he start his pharmaceutical company. He didn't pull himself up by his bootstraps, he's hardly the mind of his time, he was just conveniently picked out, a plant. Vile, possessive, and abusive towards Syria, George beat and exiled her for her pregnancy, causing her to die after childbirth while on foot to her hometown as Iwan was on the run from the Black Lions. And so we get this guy. The body of Seraphic Blue. There's a bit more to this than just crossbreeding. We're not talking about, like, making a pug or a wiener dog. There aren't only moral implications to be considered, but there's also an observable impact on reality and the spiritual flow, the existence of an in-between, something unrecognizable to Gaia's providence and the celestial border, an instability that would succumb to the darkness of Gaia's providence, and would cease to be at any moment. Which answers the question. Donald cites the presence of the spirits of Lake's parents operating as his anchor, the wings of the project. This is why Vene was born, Syria's spirit being taken from the Soul Stream, assigned Team Ansbach, overseen by Siegbert, remember? No contact to the outside world, training only, this child is a part of the mission and a test subject for Siegbert's own philosophies, programmed. Which answers the question. This explains the beginning of the game, actually, and 2 years later, when Vene appeared in Turku Forest, it was to retrieve Lake. Ende caused things to go as awry as they did, setting the game into motion. Now, Ende and his 6 remaining Gaia Cancers are what prevents Gaia's rebirth from being initiated. Elsewhere! Elsewhere! A small, secluded country hidden by mountains. Tangring, a small ethnic enclave. One of these mountains, 3 Streak Peak, the site of a celestial maiden's descent. A celestial maiden signaled with 3 streaks of light. 3 Streak Peak, though the sightings seem to have halted. Oh my god, I don't know what's happening now, I'm sorry. 3 Streak Peak. Yangtze. She has a ponytail. Think you finally caught up to speed on the story of Seraphic Blue? Feeling like all these questions are finally ironed out? Get fucked! 3 Streak Peak. She's visiting the grave of a friend after an awful devil attack occurred 7 years ago. It happens! So she likes to train, she does kung fu, oh my god, she's seeing things, and she thinks they're coming from 3 Streak Peak. 3 Streak Peak. Yangtze, we love Yangtze. She's a warrior monk, which means that she can counterattack without even having to equip a sphere for it, but you don't need me to tell you that. 3 Streak Peak. We're back in the element of Seraphic Blue where you have to navigate fights with only one character, and yeah, going up on this mountain has me dying repeatedly. You can level grind, but the thing in this field barely gives out XP compared to what's needed. The good thing is that I have this reviver here to equip, but man, if I didn't have that, what a slog the segment would be. I wish I'd be remembered in 30 minutes. I wish I'd remembered it 30 minutes ago, just goes to show how important some of these. I wish I'd remembered it 30 minutes ago, just goes to show how important some of these pickups can be. Just look at this guy here, the 3 Streak pickups. Also, check out this pickup from killing some eagles. A potion of half of God's blessings. What? First, huh? Second, are we currently going back and forth over whether or not the guy's real, or at least whether or not the belief in him is crucial to not going out of the street and killing? I suppose these things aren't so complicated over in Tangring. You don't hear someone crying on, yeah, makes sense, look at this thing, use that kung fu to hightail it out of here. Into the cave, Seraphic Brown, say, this girl doesn't look like a regular old NPC. Dor Stendhal, that's the name. Wait! Yeah, Vene's classmate from the Magic Academy, a savant of magical ability with some level of disability in her development and speech that's led to ostracization from her family and peers. And not just that, it's that guy, the one that killed Disaster. You know, Lancer Cheyenne. Just hanging out in a cave, I'm glad he didn't die. How's he able to solo Godzilla but won't tackle this thing? The cave contains a level 3 healing sphere, a merchant, resurrection space, and some room to grind, so it's a good idea to at least change everyone's loadout to better suit this fight. The boss's 8 Forked Massacre attack is literally 8 attacks that can inflict status ailments. And yeah, in 10 or so levels, everyone gets another personal ability, very useful stuff. First fight you have with this party, and I needed to grind for it. Maybe it's smooth sailing for a while now? Yes, Doris. After a couple hours of wailing away at things, you were certainly of help. Doris was out in the mountains, waiting for Vene, her big sister, to come back to the ground. The other two are like, this kid is weird, that's concerning. So they're gonna look after her. Yangtze, in particular, senses something off. The very nature of her spirit is at odds with the world. Or, okay. And, hey, Vane's just chilling at the fountain at OHGHQ, wondering just what Doris is up to nowadays. It's like those hogwash, vaguely spiritual Pinterest things you'll see that are like, if you are thinking about someone, there's a 90% chance that they are thinking about you at the same time. And you should unblock them and contact them. Don't listen to those. We aren't on Gaia, we're on Earth, and those are extremely different things. Leave that person alone. Iwan has come to the conclusion that, given the dire state of things and NA being at large, the OHG needs to come to a truce with the CMGC in order to group their efforts. Name drops a town called Darden with a cliffsite, moribund hope. People jump off of it, sounds familiar. Point being, there's a guy there, Enoch, who concocts the euthanasia used on Lucifers. He's about to be targeted by a serial killer who's been offing anyone related to the government's policy on Lucifers. We know this because the guy put out a notice saying so. Save this guy's life and these rapscallions are gonna look real good to the pigs up top. Sure, alright. In case you didn't know enough about children getting dumped off of a continent in the sky, here's more why and how. Things got a little stricter after a doctor produced false reports that his afflicted son was healthy, and was then in turn killed by said afflicted son, along with a couple dozen others. And here's this. I'm not trying to summarize this. You can read it if you want. Things got stricter, families are separated, people resent that. So the thinking is that this 6-year commemorator killer stems from either a support group for families affected or someone who follows the belief that Gaia's destruction, chaos, is the ultimate peace. Sounds disconnected, but no, the Chaos Salvation Association in all their nihilistic glory actually broke off of the support group. Yeah, it's a bit much, but it kind of sounds like this mystery man has something of a point, wherever he's coming from. So there's another great mystery. Who is the 6-year commemorator? Scoping out those cliffs, Lake reminisces on when he and Vane nearly jumped into the water back in Juas. Those crazy kids. This site is revealed to actually be where Kane's own parents jumped after his sister was taken from them after developing Lucifer syndrome. Lake is disgusted by the act of abandonment, but he and Foxy both see little issue with people taking their own life, should they choose to, viewing one choosing their own path as the ultimate happiness. It probably sounds edgy, but there is a deliberate effort towards conveying moments like these. Themes laid bare without being under the weight of gratuitous exposition, to giving breathing room so characters can just speak freely about what they're seeing and what they're going through.
As heavy-handed as it might be, it's also not terribly different from what you might hear with people discussing the labyrinthian hellscape that is modern life, which too often seems to be getting only worse.
I appreciate this for defining the characters beyond being vehicles for the plot to progress, and I hope to have more of these as it all goes on, assuming there isn't about to be another, alright, here's what's up speech. Also, Iwan is dying or something, he's getting older, and the two women in black appear to Donaldhausen, who in actuality are Benedict of Fezite and Catherine, the First Queen, which answers the question. At the residence, the serial killer disguised himself as the head of security. Enoch got killed. This mission was a total failure. The OHG is getting blamed for it. The only option left is investigating the Chaos Salvation Association. For what I'm pretty sure is the first time in the game now, there are enough party members available that you can choose who is and who isn't with you. Abram! There he is. The head of Chaos Salvation Nation. Yeah, man, I'll talk. Let me just tell you about our Lord and Savior going to hell first. Let's get ready to learn. Born to die, man. I didn't ask to be born, but here I am. It's all fake and empty, dog. David Lynch just passed away. Gaming is a construct. Does this guy not know that reincarnation is, like, kind of real? You're not escaping the cycle, bro. The torture labyrinth is eternal. And yet, given all that she's been through, Vane feels understood. She quite literally exists to serve a purpose. But hey, interview's on. Wrong! Gaia cancer alert! In Abram's own personal, cave. And what a fucking unit he is. Cancer beast, built like a GameCube. He can deal out some damage, but he's nothing compared to the worst of what I've had to go through up to now. Weak to wind and break damage, and both Vane and Ewan have personal abilities that can dole those out. Ewan in particular came in clutch here. Kane can use good healing spells, so he was on duty with that when Vane wasn't. Abram is pissed. I guess he wanted to kill everyone, or he has something to hide. Oh my god, a delivery? An orchard of taboo and immorality. See, I was thinking ahead and intimidating myself at the prospect of any extensive research on real-world thinking akin to what we've seen of this guy, but he's just hedonistic. You don't need me. Go to a bar, maybe listen to a Fox News talking rectum fearmonger, and just imagine Abram floating there as their subject to panic. Holy shit, Vane literally corners Foxy and is like, "You got any drugs?" I'm so glad I decided to play this game. Foxy may have had to be pretty individualistic coming up where she's from, but she's responsible in turning Vane down, which Vane just does not appreciate. She kind of likes the chaos idea. This sucks. Looks like Abram is getting a new convert. So, protecting Enoch was blown. Makes the OHG look bad. Talking to Abram is blown. Makes the OHG look bad. And prevents the government from getting anything out of him. The cops are on their way. And how are you gonna hide your shit when the shit is your gang's 3 core players? Queen or not, Minerva's efforts to smooth things over don't amount to much in the eyes of Big Pig Owen, when he's already charged the OHG with treason, except there's an earthquake, and Fezite is called into a state of emergency. The celestial border is gone. It's just disappeared. Remember Fritz from the beginning? I barely did. He's there. According to him, everything is blown wide open now. There's no certainty in the way things are headed. The fatalistic air these overseers have embodied is called into question, according to Ofa. George and Ende, the apparent culprits, are described as criminals against existence that will be brought to justice by the will of the universe itself. The people of Ground are in hysterics over the existence of Fezite, and George is using this to his advantage in order to rally against it and take over. There's comfort in someone who you've already viewed as a grand authority figure assuring you that there's nothing yet unseen to him. He's known all along and has been pulling the strings in his favor for your protection, of course. By the way, this is what some people think will happen when you open up borders.
Chapter 3. The Distant Gloomy Sky. Truth of Tears. Radiance for Lives.
Nixon, who did not die, newly made witness to Fezite, renounces his church upon the revelation that the sky above was never the Lord's domain. Nixon is joining the war. Burning the place down was a bit much. He could have just used that place for something, but maybe Ground doesn't have a housing crisis, just kaiju and an existential nightmare literally floating overhead. He boards ships to Juess and then Darmstadt. He knows that lashing out against an entire continent of people is anger misplaced, but there's no alternate path laid out before him. And Yangtze is encouraging Lancer to do the same. I don't even know you. Her reasoning is that he'll be able to enlist, get on board an airship with Doris, and drop her off back home. The merit in dropping someone off back home right before total violent occupation eludes me, unless she just really wants this kid off her back. Oh, there's just a bridge connecting these, huh? Nixon is staying at the same inn as these 3. What are the odds? He's just on his way to the old saloon, though, where his friend Maxim reunites him with cherished guns of days past. You know it's real when the guns are named. Named after your wife and child that left you. Also an ancient Bible. The most powerful protective Bible that can only be utilized by those in the religious profession. And, well, Nixon burned his church down, but I guess if you still understand the theology, then it counts. Some guns in a Bible. Meanwhile, the OHG has finally gotten that truce they so badly wanted with the government after the whole disappearance of the celestial border and declaration of war thing. Sure, they are blamed for a valuable asset getting assassinated, and sure, they are seen as having botched the government's shot at interrogating a person of interest in the case, but now it's time for a third chance to warp down to the Darmstadt skyscraper and wipe out George covertly. Enemies in the skyscraper are tough, because the game wants you to level grind to level 50 while watching YouTube. Ultimately, going through these 10 floors is not that bad, but then again, I went up 10 levels, and thanks to that, George fled up to the rooftop. There he is, but it's not him. It's an imposter, his clone daughter. She can pack a punch. The trick here is to just stick to physical damage. Any elements introduced to the field can be plucked out and enable her to have the party wiped out in 1 or 2 turns. Maybe I did too good a job, as this whole fight is being filmed and broadcast to the large screen near the base of the skyscraper for all the war volunteers down below to see. The radical left wants to murder George and his weird clone daughter. They think the people of Ground are a bunch of dumb hicks that deserve to get murdered by demon children. And the people buy into it. Can't exactly blame them under these circumstances. Wonderful. 3rd time in a row that the OHG have ended up making everything worse. In brighter news, Nixon has finally wised up and joined Yangtze and Co. up on Fezite with the higher-ups. This guy Morgan with a particularly dumb helmet is blood-starved and disrupting everything. He wants to go straight to carpet bombing, Some of the others are a little more sensible though, like, well, getting killed by people is bad, but we did dump a bunch of demon children on them, so it makes sense why they're upset. Like Gerard here. This guy just looks nice. Thankfully, Acting Queen Daisy maintains that they are only to act in defense. I know that there's a lot of characters. I know it's a lot of names. I'm sorry. Remember that mystery figure that Ende's been meeting with? Looks like an unlockable character. He's got something else underway, and it's looking like he's yet another important figure. Maybe he's also in politics, just operating more from the shadows. With assurance from the Acting Queen Daisy that no one is going to attempt a coup with war already breaking out, Minerva has asked her to return as queen to help during such turbulence. Oh my god, we've seen airships, but this is the first time you get to pilot the airship. It's a staple of classic RPGs. This is huge. Look at this game. You can go wherever. You can go between Fezite and ground. You can walk around in it. Actually, fuck you, there is a coup. It was a trap, and we're only finding out because of nice guy Gerard here. It all seemed too convenient. Entering the castle via a secret underground passage. The game introduces on-screen enemies 30 hours in. It's like a stealth segment. Kind of. These knights follow set patterns. Really fond of the design of these rebel mages. Very neat, high-tech look that still fits the fantasy aesthetic. It's here I'm discovering that the characters not in your immediate party level up along with your selected members. Seraphic Blue, I love you. Behind the coup is this armored meathead, Mott. You might be thinking, what? Of the dozens of names that have been thrown out all this time, I don't think I've heard this one. Me neither. I don't know who Mott is. I've never heard of Mott. His qualities include being strong and wanting Morgan in power. He seems like a dick. It's a straightforward fight until he's all, oh, I'm as hard as a diamond. You can't hurt me. I grew up in Call of Duty Xbox Live lobby voice chat. So you just gotta look at his stats, see that he has no resistance to poison, and keep inflicting poison on him. There's no indication that it's working, his health doesn't go down, you are simply to continue doing it until the man passes away in front of you. Vexed? Owen heads to the CMGC headquarters to attempt to get everything under control while the rest return to the OHG base. Former Acting Queen Daisy, or Fact, lets us know that an informant let her in on a secret about a hidden underground factory. Robin has been using this for the construction and deployment of airships. For evil. The OHG is the only group not occupied with handling a coup or, well, being evil. So that's what's up next. Ewan is staying behind to watch over Daisy and Gerard. At least, that's the reasoning he gives, but his condition, whatever it may be, is getting worse. He's been one of the most useful party members, so I'm really concerned. It's something to do with his role as a part of Seraphic Blue, which calls into question why Vane is just fine. Donald, of course, knows a little more than he's letting on, but of course, why would that be revealed just now? Go be old and useless somewhere else. Given these uncertain times, actually still the Acting Queen Daisy, or ASACT, permits Minerva to use the forbidden Fezite family attack technique, Queen's Judgment. It's pretty strong sometimes. The factory. There are lasers you must shut off. There are some useful items to be found, like the all-green sphere, which cures you of negative status effects upon the start of your turn. There are robots. Dear God, there are robots. They do so much damage. They one-shot Minerva. I found myself leaving and heading to the end just to get my supply back up multiple times. Heidi! The treasonous cur working for Robin against her skybound homeland. And Fyodor. We saw them way earlier on, speaking of some ominous contraption of their design. Whatever their reason may be, killing them means no more cutscenes of them gloating about while important story events occur. This mission is crucial. They talk tough. But I'm a YouTuber. Once Heidi is down, Fyodor panics and uses his ultimate weapon. Gamma radiation? What? No one becomes the Hulk though, they just die. Okay, try that again, kill him first, sure. If water is on the field, use Diswater, or something bad will happen. This is one of the most important uses of support magic. When Fyodor dies first, he's like, damn! When Heidi dies after, she just kind of takes it. Wait, what do you mean that they're still alive? Come on, man! It's too late, some monumental act of terror is in the works. That's what they were working on. One of the airships is armed with a highly dangerous explosive device that, when detonated, causes death and destruction by means of a powerful wave of combustion and extreme force. This is known as a bomb. Thank God that Hausen, being a robot, is equipped with a sensor device used for countering terrorism. I don't know that there's any terrorism around though, just a bomb on one of these ships as part of a plan to explode in the middle of the sky, taking out a whole bunch of people on both sides in order to incite further violence and really kickstart the war. Oh, yeah, okay, right. How useful is that though, when Hausen needs to get real close to say which is gonna blow up? Well, man, I guess pick from 1 out of 10 and hope you're right. I have a gambling addiction. Off-screen violence ensues, we're aboard the main deck. Wait, this guy looks badass, just look at that shit. What do you mean this one doesn't have the bomb? What's the purpose of recalling what Heidi said? Is it not a clever way of pointing out the number you want to go with? Take your time? What? Okay, it's 11:42. How long am I gonna wait? I'm checking Twitter. I still use that. I really do. I was here first. Ah, there we go. It only took about a minute. It's 8. Wings of Infinity. Infinity symbol. Mobius strip. Sideways 8. This is why Vane shouldn't be doing drugs. She would have been stoned out of her mind, just had a panic attack right there in front of everyone. And get this, it's not just any bomb. It's a robot bomb. You gotta kill it. Wait, look at this thing. How tight is that? Why don't bombs look like this in real life? Definitely one of my favorite designs in the game so far, but it's not too tough, and I can't say that I mind after that dungeon, boss battle, and bomb sequence. While Vane tends to be the designated healer, Minerva's personal ability, Aria Aid, barely uses any time at all, which means it can often be used multiple times in a row before someone else's turn. I'd made use and then just forgot about it for a while. I even mentioned it earlier. Figuring out how you can optimize your party's actions through paying attention to details like this is one of the most satisfying and unique aspects of the battle system. Oh, spoke too soon. This thing latches onto someone once it comes close to being damaged beyond repair. It's gonna blow. To everyone's dismay, Housen nobly sacrifices himself and jumps from the ship. I was wondering when a main character was going to go. It seemed like it was only a matter of time. Honestly, it's well executed. I'm just worried about how I'm going to take it should this happen with a character I'm a little more attached to. Witnessing this firsthand has Vane further detached and embittered. Whether or not that's a coping response, she finds herself all the more close to the idea of an ultimate salvation. She holds a perspective and understanding that the others won't be able to understand after all. Her lived experience as a child has only served to show, in a broader sense, that to love is to suffer. I'm getting worried about where this character arc is going. There's an uproar amongst the workers at the Robin factory upon the realization that they were to be sacrificed as pawns for George, though he isn't ultimately too concerned about it. After all, with his knowledge and influence, it can be passed off as a plan of Fezites, and most won't know any better. Deployment of Neo-Devils is next up, creations of the very Dr. Langer from the beginning, a slave to his newfound pay. Party B is at the factory and ready to hijack an airship to bring Doris back to her homeland. I still say it's a bad idea. The 10th airship is abandoned in all the chaos of one of them being equipped with a bomb. Okay, both parties can maneuver freely now. Doris doesn't know where the OHG base is, and only divulges this now, so heading to Fezite capital for information seems like the right move. Lansard and Nixon find some common ground in that they've both lost family to their bounty hunting pursuits. Lansard keeps on his person a locket containing a photo of his daughter Asia. I can assume that's his daughter, right? Of course, following an attempted bombing, a country under attack is going to be on high alert, so naturally, an enemy airship isn't going to be allowed to just land peacefully. No, I swear, they're just plucky young heroes. These aren't terrorist officers, please. Oh god, please. The ship's automatic defense measures kick in, triggering an escape route that people who have never flown before don't know how to interrupt. Yangtze, established village idiot, beats on the console. A violent descent, an explosive collision. They're all dead! Every last one of them, all 4 of them. Oh, okay, they're okay. It's a sturdy transport. Being knocked out, though, gives a chance to see the extent of Yangtze's survivor's guilt from when her hometown was raided. She's still beat on the controls of a gigantic flight machine, though. Like, what did you expect? Actually, I'm thankful for the whole crash, as the site of impact was this South Crimson Forest, where it appears as fall all year round. I'm riding in the winter, there's no leaves, going outside is only really comfortable in the sense that you know you'll be really happy getting back indoors and under a blanket. These here backwoods still got a useful shop merchant just waiting for folks to crash land. Thanks. Along the path and serving as a knight's refuge is a lone mansion, previously home to a now victim of the 6-year commemorator. A lawmaker with a soul, actually, as he kept the killer's warning a secret and basically accepted the act as a form of divine punishment. The only victim to have actually civilly spoken with the commemorator before their life was taken. Here it's apparent that Lansard knows more than he let on when he's talking to the maid that stayed behind. There's a connection. You go through the rest of the woods, fight the South Crimson Woods Beast King thing, use Earth defense if necessary. You keep going, Owen and his guys get the drop on you. Let's freeze, put your hands up! And more, you don't seem like terrorists, what's up here? What's the deal? Now to be, peacefully detained. Amidst a discussion over Doris, someone arrives to inform Owen that he has been relieved of his position as chairman and will be succeeded by Morgan. You know, the coup guy. He's still up to some mischief, like threatening to accuse Doris of treason and then torture her to death. Unless all of SERAPHIC Blue is turned over. Owen is disgusted. He's not a bad guy after all, he's just, I don't know, a dick. And now he's convicted of treason. Hardy is freed by one of Owen's underlings and given a map to the OHG headquarters in order to get help. It's about to be a crossover episode. Observe this beautiful shot of these 3 marching out under a SERAPHIC Blue sunset. Yangtze, however, feels too responsible for Doris to let her suffer alone, and decides to turn back in hopes of being detained alongside her. Remember, she has a dead friend. Everyone here knows someone that died. it's about to be slightly less of a crossover episode. All this build-up, this valiant resolve, what if she gets there and they just stuff her in a different room? Back to Party A. Ewan and Kane have shown up to give the news that the horde of devils released by George is attacking Fezite Garden. The attempted bombing was ultimately a diversion to occupy the land's defenses, leaving the OHG to protect the garden in their stead. At the Fezite Garden, Vane is realizing she's about to be coming face to face with some of the people involved in her captive upbringing. The head of the Neo-Devils is located far north of the entrance behind locked doors, so it's another dungeon. You go down some long hallways, receive keycards, use those keycards to go down other hallways. It's a less dubious Facebook HQ. Meta. Yeah. Hearing cries of distress leads everyone down several floors to the Lucifer disposal facility. They see this afflicted infant undergoing euthanasia, which proves to be a harrowing experience for everyone, the shared suffering of the process witnessed head-on. Even the lab's employee can attest that the parents of these children often express remorse over having children to begin with. After all, bringing a life into a world like this could be considered a cruel act all its own, seeing that death seems to be the only out available. No one attempts to present a holier-than-thou perspective. There's no winning here. Everyone can agree that dumping of children to the ground is cruel and destructive, but no one has any real answers to the initial issue. Still, for people accustomed to this kind of suffering like Lake and Vane, the resolve stays strong, and there's only one way to survive the invasion that's underway. Both are witnessing the other grow more and more resigned to the path ahead, and it's eroding how they view themselves. They're going in the same direction and effectively helping each other get there. It's a natural progression from the two nearly jumping into the ocean side by side. Fantastical window dressing and Oedipal reincarnation aside, it's hardly a dynamic I'd call unrealistic. Have you ever connected with someone over a similar hardship just to find that your own instabilities actually clashed? Or maybe you're reminded too much of what you went through or what you don't like about yourself. Maybe the relationship itself was positive, but the attachment grew unhealthy. Here, this is codependency to a T that I can't expect to turn out for the better if life and just the way things tend to go in this game are anything to go off of. Progressing through the garden, finally, and free of devils for at least a moment, so why does something feel off? Vane grows belligerent and frantic, screaming for everyone to get away and never return here. She offers no answer, which would have one pressed to know. What does the garden hide? It seems completely out of the blue until Fritz appears. Finally, the man is present in something other than a cutaway or introspective vignette. Fritz Ansbach, Vane's last name, the name of the team that oversaw her development, and, as it turns out, also the last name of Siegbert, another character alluded to as an important figure, but yet to really be defined. We now know him to be Fritz's father. This room contains equipment used to emit low-frequency sound waves for testing, clearly to Vane's detriment. Oh, so that's all that was there. Everyone is very understanding. Let's not cause even more suffering for the girl. They won't even let me approach the door now. Okay, that was some nice development, hoping for more time to keep on killing. It's a snake, which wasn't that bad. I don't know what these scientists were running from. The remaining devils retreat to Darmstadt, and it's looking good for the OHG. They didn't flub this one. This section of the garden is for cloning serahumans, currently the only real potential solution to children becoming Lucifers. Infected children are cloned, their souls are transferred to the new healthy bodies, and the retained experience of the soul prevents the corruption from beginning again. You'd think that this all would have been brought up earlier, but of course, this is real life. I mean, this is Seraphic Blue. What right have we to tamper with life to substitute children? Are they not merely fake stand-ins, akin to AI girlfriends and streamers that talk to their fan bases as if they're personal friends? I would think, given that this is literally a setting in which the soul is something that can be scientifically transplanted, this isn't something that would get so much called into question. After all, the soul seems intrinsically tied to identity here. The body is essentially a shell. It's understandable that, in practice, there's to be complications of sentiment. It just seems strong wording for a body containing the literal essence of what it's duplicating to be dubbed a fake. Regardless, cloning is largely deemed a temporary solution. Oh yeah, and Siegbert's here, and he's the insane freak that raised Vane and made her kill cats all the time, and he's Vane's father! I'm gonna just, do you a favor here. Yeah. See that? Family tree. Siegbert's family dynamic is his own personal experiment, even beyond Seraphic Blue. His detached perspective is projected upon and ingrained in them. His children curse at him and detest their upbringings, and still he watches their lives play out according to his expectations. A microscopic snapshot of his worldview that's been manipulated to soon reshape life on a macro level. It's becoming all the more apparent why Vane is finding appeal in chaos as a form of salvation. Thankfully, Lake and Ewan are growing closer over their shared disdain for who they just met. While the patriarch of the Ansbach family is boastfully fixated on the horizon, these two are good old country boys by comparison, decking out the sound system on their truck and picking up some cold ones for the big game. Ewan suspects that, apart from feelings towards him carried over from a past life and, probably towards Lake, it is Fritz that Vane truly has feelings for. This comes up like a shotgun to the chest. Now, keep in mind that these two are not necessarily blood-related. Keep in mind also that Vane's origin has already been established as planned, facilitated. No attention is called throughout this exchange to them being siblings. Fritz early on even claims Siegbert to be his father in name only. Let's calm down. A flashback to Vane in detainment following an attempt on her own life, which is the origin of the scar on her wrist. Subordinates under Siegbert are concerned with her condition, and her psychiatric examination suggests some sort of a split personality disorder. Perhaps this explains the air and Ofa so frequently depicted within her. Which answers the question! Of course she's to be detached, that's all according to plan, but there's no plan to carry out if she's deceased. This is the only reason she came to know Fritz to begin with, in hopes that some extent of socialization would prevent further attempts on her own life. We learn here that Vane is actually the name Fritz would have been given if he was a girl, and that he initially was to be the primary subject of Siegbert's tests. According to Siegbert, he pales in comparison to a case like Vane, which is why she was adopted, oh thank God. Present day, the inner machinations of Vane's mind enigma speak, where air gloats of a flower soon to bloom from the efforts of her comrades. Who even knows if she's speaking literally or not? You couldn't tell by now. Air, the purple-haired one, she's the bad one. But then to decide, Morgan, new acting king, or Knack, prepares to launch a counterattack against ground in an act of Sky People supremacy, and they're gonna kill George, who is currently preparing countermeasures of his own. Ende can be seen next to George as well, in an interesting touch, literally playing both sides at the same time for a bloodbath to preface this black flower that was just alluded to. Playing damage control at the scene of the crime is next up. Kane, you dumb bitch.
This is horrible.
Looks to me like it's too late, but this is some great presentation. Once again, Seraphic Blue is looking me in the eyes and saying, I'm him. So hard a sight, Minerva's escorted out by Foxy after becoming physically ill. Which Kane makes fun of. Man, fuck Kane, I don't want to have to use Kane. Vane, on the other hand, remarks that it's merely bodies falling and making impact with the ground, while her purple-haired other self takes great joy in the display. She's kind of a freak. Largely, up to now, it's appeared more to be the case that these two inner selves made up a balance. An altruistic Ofa, Air looking down upon everything playing out as if it's already been written in stone, conflicted and desensitized Vane the product. These inner workings reading is all the more complicated due to her background stretching out past her own lifetime. It's only now clear that the reality is much more dangerous and all the more urgent. Air is the suppressed other beginning to emerge, and she intends to take the lead. 5 civilians to rescue in town. Still a guy selling goods despite the massacre surrounding him. Seraphic Blue is in touch with the world it was born into. The corpses of soldiers and townsfolk seen here are actual objects that you can't just walk through. Seraphic Blue is in touch with the world it was born into. Blasphemous Satans! Yeah, he tends to be. And they're tough. Wreckage from ships and flailing bodies hail upon the party, doing their own damage. It's a creative and striking sequence. A town you'll have been to before is turned into a hellscape of a dungeon with encounters that can't be escaped from. It's also tedious and frustrating. I'm actually grateful for the merchant taking advantage of the bloodshed, as buying and upgrading healing items and purchasing spheres for defense against the dark element are the only reason I was able to get past this. You can't grind, there are no random encounters, and you can't leave until the job's done. Then, the job's done. Then, now actually some woman is screaming about her kid running towards the skyscraper, and Kane acts all gung-ho about getting her out of here. I've seen your soul. Only when finding the child does a boss appear. Blasphemous Dragon is a pushover though, so long as the earth element is removed from the field and he can't use his gravity attack, that pretty much one-shots the party. The women in black, referred to here as Gaia's appointed conductors, watch in horror as the kingdom they founded participates in such a terror. It's as if the united whole of civilization is killing itself off, and Gaia is going to cease as a result. Ende flaunts his involvement in the scheme, but admits that he's not the one to truly oversee it. Certainly that's the silhouette he's been shown speaking to. Can we get a name already? He still has something to prove, which he demonstrates by abducting the girl just rescued and dropping her from the tower. No one is able to step in and stop him. The whole thing plays out helplessly. The only safety that she finds is it all ending as quickly as it does. This act is the final trigger for the lament of Gaia, the alluded to Black Flower, forcing Benedicta, the planet's avatar, maybe the world's inner child, to bear witness, coming undone. A dome of energy encapsulates the city. Lake and the others awaken outside, away from the aftermath, presumably spared. Kane seems to be even more traumatized by what transpired than the others. What changed there? Aboard the airship, they receive a transmission from Morgan, demanding that the 3 parts of Seraphic Blue fall under his control in order to prevent Doris from being tortured. Conveniently, Doris's companions, not in captivity, have reached the OHG headquarters in search of aid, which gives us our next mission. Ewan's disease, whatever it may be, seems to be catching up, and he's made preparations for a last resort. At this stage in the game, there's a whole new class of gear, Crystal, and it's expensive. This is because the developer intended for you to grind for levels and money while watching the new season of Severance. Slightly confusing layout here. Maybe the overall route isn't confusing, but everything looks the same, and you're supposed to find this guy, Curtis Hamilton, who works here, and he looks like a huge nerd, and he turns on an elevator so you can go underground and call out Morgan. What's with this photo he's keeping to himself, and who is Leona? The uniform repetition of the CMGC workplace is oppressive. Not sure how a disgruntled worker didn't already clear out the place before us. It's the terminals on the left. Always. Curtis stays behind to ensure that the other workers can get out safely. Downstairs, things look interesting. I'm grateful to be out of the constant white walls and chairs everywhere. It's a robot. The group roasts the robot's appearance, and the robot decides it's time to stand on business. Gotta say though, love the design here. Think about the body horror of the guy who cancers up before this, and how that's carried over to a mechanical terror machine. Are the guys in the center? Is it the black scope-like object up top? It's weak to water, because it's a robot. This guy's vibes are great, doesn't even put up much of a fight. Is what I would say if he didn't immediately latch on to Kane. Yep. It's another bomb. No, anyone but him. Oh no, please. But remember, he's the expert. Everyone's just gotta step away to safety while he disarms this thing. Or, no, it's too advanced and Kane gets to meet Jesus for free. A reunion with Dad, Mom, and the name of Lancer's daughter! Or at least the name of the child he keeps a photo of. Well, remember, we're here to rescue Doris and Young T. Thank you, Kane, for nobly freeing up space for the backups in the party. There's gloating of Ende being the one to come up with what did Kane in, but like, this kid didn't invent the robot. Did he provide the idea for the robot to blow up, like what happened with Hausen? Was it just his idea to put the robot there? To kill specifically Kane? Either way, Morgan's outlived his usefulness according to the director's orders, which is great because we don't have to look at this guy anymore. Instead, he looks like this. Barbara. He's all muscle, it's pretty simple. And there's security lasers in place, and his last act is to, well, explode. This is where Iwan decides to tell us that this disease we've seen alluded to is actually a tardive form of defective serohuman infant syndrome, an instability from being one of the wings of Seraphic Blue, and he's been taking experimental medication supplied by Donald in order to suppress it. What he was shown taking from Donald is not further medication, but in fact something to advance the transformation. To put it more intellectually, to go beast mode. He begins to mutate and fuses with Morgan's body. This is someone I actually care about. I'm fucked up, man. Kill Kane again. This is the third party member to die sacrificing himself in an explosion, and it's the most effective. I hate it. I hate it. I expected him to go out at some point, but not this soon. Even more unexpectedly, there's his Force Ghost. Remember how Seraphic Blue has to have its main body and wings? That was important. Ewan's spirit enters into Vene. Owen is said to have been saved, the castle then reclaimed, but the rest who remained at the base are presumed dead in the aftermath of the explosion. Oh, Curtis. Young T agrees to stay with the party and help to look after Doris, not realizing that this is Vene's way of furthering her own seclusion. It's another step in the wrong direction. Distrust of the government of Fezite is at an all-time high, imagine that, and sometimes Acting Queen Daisy, or SACT for short, known for her cool and collected rationale, suggests that the best way to quell unrest amongst the general public is to make a show of executing Morgan, who's dead. So he can be cloned by that Lady Margot who specializes in lifeless bodies, and that body can be shot while attached to a cross. It's the only way. Ende with the mystery man again, who speaks of being free as of Curtis Hamilton's demise. Once again, a Leona is referred to. I really am just ready to know who this is so I can stop referring to him like... Oh. Hey, that's, Owen and current Acting Queen Daisy, or CACT, discuss a newly made decision to discontinue Project Seraphic Blue and its testing and let roam free Vene, now the leader of the OHG, who's focused her sights on Benedictus Tears, the weird dome. It's Catherine. Apparently, Ewan's spirit entering Vene, a phenomenon thought to be impossible and unnatural, is a sign that fate has lost its course. The future is wide open. And there's another village up north in the mountains that will hold the answer to entering the weird dome. George is still at it, with the assistance of Heidi and Fyodor working their subordinates to the bone. I'm in the south, I'm not worried about... Oh my god! Hausen? With amnesia! Yeah, he's a magic robot, he survived, he just doesn't have his old memories. Alright. Well, at least it makes sense why everyone was sent here in order to figure out the dome situation, since he served Catherine and Benedicta. He gives Minerva a pendant, one of his personal belongings from long ago, and unbeknownst to him, he's relieved of his duty to the Queen. As quickly as this plays out, I really did think that we were about to have a mini-arc of Hausen coming back to his memories, leaving behind his new life. I can appreciate the narrative decision to have Minerva accept things as they are, instead of dragging him back into this growing conflict. Presenting the pendant, an object imbued with Hausen's thoughts and feelings as he witnessed the history of the world. And we're in Blue World. Formerly Darmstadt, an open wound on the planet's life force, and currently the most immediate threat to it. Trying to prevent Benedicta from blowing up even further. Interact with the statue thing. Here are two monsters literally named Meatball and a large flesh worm. In killing the meatballs, they release a strong aroma that prompts the worm to eat the entire party. Cool, I didn't save since before seeing Hausen. Clearly, it's a tense gauntlet of battles against some pretty creatively designed enemies. I was hoping for more of an explorative dreamscape sequence, but it'll do, and at the end of it all is Dr. Langer. He admits immediately to his heading of the Neo-Devil project and that it took direct inspiration from Morgan's Lucifer Nights, a monologue on money being the only means to peace of mind when you have nothing and no one in your life, and he turns into a blob. Yeah, there he is. That's Dr. Langer. We've known him since the beginning of the game. That's what he looks like now. He doesn't do a whole lot. He's tired and lonely. Just wants to be done with it already. Poor guy. He's just following orders for the job that he took. One time when I was a server at a restaurant, a guy asked if he could pour his margarita into a to-go cup so he could take it out on the road with him, and I had to say no, because it was illegal. I too bear sins for which I may never truly atone. A few more encounters, and here is the soulless clone daughter of Lake's mom. This is apparently an appropriate place to disclose her origin. Project Virginie, an effort to resurrect Lake's mom, which is typically why we clone dead people. Now, remember all the stuff about clones? Raw bodies, just husks, literally soulless. This is where it gets interesting. Virginie's personality is a primitive implant, and she has the name that she does because it sounds like virgin, because George is a freak. There's On the Nose and there's RPGs. Virginie is the 28th of her kind because the previous ones just didn't cut it. Obviously, this isn't really a resurrection of Syria, which is where Vane comes in. A copy with her literal soul, getting them back together is the end goal here. Which, as the party brings to attention, would mean the death of Virginie as she is now. Her initial purpose is just too ingrained for her to decide against it. Which means we have to fight. What is this, like the third time? And we get her. Again. 2 out of 3. That is some prose. Yeah, man, I know what you mean. Oh! Langer's alive and deblobbed! Man, come on, why save this guy? Ancient woman thinks he's just too damn good a doctor to let pass. A second lease on life. The blob no more. Reality collapses further, and Catherine has some more wisdom to share. Benedicta was born to a family of scholars and neglected by her parents for their work, chastised for her academic shortcomings. Every pursuit of study became an effort to make up for her failings. She perceived her own existence to be a sin. It was only after her parents fell ill and passed away that she refined Gaia theory and came to be known herself as a major scientific figure, too late to atone for the burden she was made to feel herself to be. While records stated her to have succumbed to a sudden illness, in truth, she took her own life at 45 years of age. This is the core of exposition here, as her spirit, rather than entering the soul stream, found another body and began life anew, becoming the first Serahuman, or angel. More pertinent, she became Catherine Rio, and with some of Benedicta's desires and experiences, founded a team of explorers to conduct research on spirits. This team included Donald and Margot. There was a reason for these old people after all. Beyond research, the true goal of the Rio explorers was to create a world for other people like Catherine, this new species where their true potential could flourish and prosper. I was right about the continent of Druas being Fezite. At the height of their research, Benedicta's resonance with the will of the planet enabled the continent to float up into the sky. Okay. New rules of life were written into order. The great mass of land expanded, an immaterial border concealing it from view. The land was populated by Catherine and the other founders, and Serahumans were artificially produced through implanting souls into cloned bodies, which seems like a bit of an ethical issue in this context. Long after her duties as founding queen were fulfilled, Catherine passed away and her spirit was granted permanence by Gaia to act as both its emissary and extension, all in order to ultimately accomplish the planet's rebirth. Which answers the question. Here, just let me break this down a little. Okay, here. Benedicta refines Gaia theory. Soul goes to Catherine. Fezite is founded. Donald, from team of founders, discovers both Gaia Cancers and the Rebirth Project Seraphic Blue. Seraphic Blue versus Ende. I really hope no one else feels that way. And where does Joshua fit into this? The fight against Benedicta's sorrow makes way for a really unique climax in the segment. You can't let the enemy get to their turn with no elements on the field, as that leads to instant death for the whole party. Similarly, no break elements either. I had to switch up the party formation to make sure no one would be stuck at the end of a turn without elemental attacks. We did it, guys! The weird dome is gone! And something else is wrong. An insider has informed Daisy of George's last and ultimate effort, Liberation Arc Jewess. It's literally a giant saucer beneath Jewess. The construction of the city on the water was merely a cover. This was spoken of before. Listen, I can't relay every single thing mentioned. Believe it or not, I'm trying to be succinct here and there. It's equipped with a weapon powerful enough to destroy the entire continent of Fezite. It's a Death Star. The guys are like, well, can you send people to go deal with it? And Daisy's all, well, yeah, no, you guys are the main characters. George, like any good imperialist, orders the detonation of Jewess with no regard for evacuating the countless people present for the ship's launch. The plan is to board the ship's hangar and infiltrate from there on foot. Man, it really is the Death Star. Not a great idea. The Death Star gears up to fire upon Fezite, only for the shot to miss entirely. Not a technical error, but a result of sabotage. None other than Heidi, Sarah human, cutting her people some slack just this once. Okay, I don't know what this means for the story. Well, it would have been like Star Wars, but the gang's ship is fired upon and crashes down below near the town of Kokomo from the beginning of the game. It's been a long time since we've been here. The ship is completely destroyed, which is rough. I really liked having an airship to skip through the overworld with. Vane is taken away by George's men as a mercenary is dispatched to dispose of the rest of the crew. I love the framing here of the two getting ready to face off in the rain. I was almost disappointed that Ileana appears to get between them. No, I didn't mean like that. And then I'm reminded of just what I like so much about this game. It really comes together for scenes like what you're seeing here. Just pure, unabashed, mid-2000s edge hype. And I don't mean that in any negative sense. There's no irony, there's no jokes to break up the tension. Lake is pissed, and yeah, it's earned. His father he only briefly came to know is passed. His love interest and or reincarnated mom is abducted. His foster mother was brutally murdered in front of him. We're getting some kind of release. Needless to say, he eviscerates this guy. Upon his departure to save Vane, the townsfolk find Ileana, breathing but barely holding on, and a newly reformed, if you can call it that, Dr. Langer takes her into his care. Back aboard the large death machine, Virginie is informed that she'll actually be replaced in order for Syria to be resurrected or reborn. They're unable to implant a soul into her occupied body. The redemption arc is spelling itself out. She leaves on a boarded plane with Theodore because, you know what they say, don't bet on your dogs that lose. While Lake is already aboard and absolutely slaughtering the crew, everyone else is just hanging out at the Kokomo Inn, taking shelter from the rain. Lancer finds his drive again to fight like in the good old days. Foxy dislikes the rain a lot, she's just kind of reading the mood.
Minerva prays to her ancestors.
Nixon finds peace in the idea that there being no god only validates his care for others, and Yangtze and Doris agree to get Vane back home. Virginie's plane arrives, and vowing to kill George with her own hands, she pays her respects to Syria's grave with the rest of the party. Several waves of airborne enemies have to be dealt with, while also keeping the plane itself healed until a boss, this symbiote thing here, called Heaven's Captor, wraps itself around the ship and limits you to only being able to use normal attacks several turns into the fight. It's basically a glorified DPS check in which you need to have your party as optimized as possible for it. Good thing there's a shop present. Oh, look at that. Look, I'm going to be fully transparent here. I looked this up. This game doesn't have a lot of coverage, but there is some gameplay footage on YouTube at least. See here? Oh, yeah, the Death Star. 6 floors. When I go into a mall or like a McDonald's or Barnes & Noble with a 2nd floor, I always say, "Whoa, this is just like the Death Star!" And people look at me in disgust. You have to enable access to use the elevator for the different floors. A lot of these encounters are scripted, and there is a healer waiting on standby on the 1st floor, so taking advantage of that is super convenient. Virginie is proving to be a nice party member. With her sky-high accelerated move, you can basically get 2 turns in one at any time as long as you have the energy for it. You fight a red spider and a blue spider. Those are different colors, but both are allergic to water. At the top is Heidi, smug as usual with another robot, but this one is humanoid and smooth. Looks kind of like a Starman, the Daistal Wakur. I'm not looking up if I pronounced that right or not. Again, water. I think I used somewhere around 6 resurrection items for this. It's just brutal. Not the most frustrating fight in the game, not even close. Just, man, the amount of healing and defending needed to get through this thing. Lancerd was the main one doing damage here. Farewell. You had a cool design. Lake is already in the middle of confrontation. Vane sedated and off to the side. It's good to see that his head is still on straight after going beast mode, telling George that he's no real father to Syria, citing the good character he's able to see in Ewan as a father before his death. This is easily one of the most satisfying moments in the game up to now. I'm shocked that George isn't just offing himself immediately after getting verbally eviscerated like this. But no, he still thinks he's the boss and that everyone else out there, blue hair and aura or not, are there to serve. He may or may not have a cannibalism fetish also. I need to say that it's really funny to talk about how you're god of the world when there's a magic child literally floating above you. One with the power to, say, transform you into a... oh, okay. Yeah, here it comes. George is Gertrude. Do I even need to say it? Due to his, I don't know, great intellect, he's retained his personality. Lake's gonna kill him, though. It doesn't even need to be a playable fight. There hasn't even been an opportunity to save yet. Like, the game isn't gonna make you go right into another long-winded battle. Right? Thank you. Version disables the ship's weapon capabilities and unlocks access to a private sector. Oh my god, again? Come on, George is getting his ass reamed right now. I want to see it. Okay, now. Oh my god. More guys. You have to walk through Tron. And damn it, don't tell me that Lake is losing. We just saw him go Super Saiyan. Come on. No! No! The whole group shows up and takes turns roasting George before beating the hell out of him. He can do some damage, sure, but he's not that bad. You're telling me that Hyper Lake lost to this? Version you heard him the most here, so that's fitting at least. Even Ende tells George that he had it coming. We did it, gang! George is dead. Well, there's a ship to fly again, and Lake is recovering, and... No. No! 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 Lake's found his purpose in making a sacrifice for someone else, and I hate it. I gotta say, I'd seen this game hyped up over its twists and turns, but I was not expecting this. Like, yeah, there are a lot of party members, but I figured that'd just be shuffling people around, not watching the main cast get wiped out. Wait. Okay. Vane's in pursuit. Okay. They're joining hands clasped, looking into each other's eyes. That's good. Vane's asking, what are we? Okay, well, yeah, I was kind of wondering myself. Okay, telling someone that they like how you're like their mom is kind of weird, but maybe you can roll with it. Okay, assert her individuality. That's good. My man. Keep going. Keep going. Okay. Tell her that you're going to reside within her alongside your dad's spirit. That'll do it. Yeah, they love hearing that. They love to hear that. Vane is now the hull of Seraphic Blue and says that there is only one fragment left to obtain. Fuck.
Are you having trouble getting out of bed? Taking care of yourself, doing what needs to be done. Having trouble making the rent, the wife getting tired of putting up with you. You feel a constant weight on your shoulders, almost as if there's an entire continent just looming overhead, threatening to drop any second. Strange, childlike monstrosities dropping from the clouds above. Do you feel less and less in sync with Gaia every day? Almost like your spirit is corrupt, tainted. Is jumping the cliffs of moribund hope looking more and more appealing every day? Introducing Tranquil G. You didn't know you need it, but you do. Energy. Happiness. Enlightenment. Doctors recommend Tranquil G to level up. God may have left us behind, but George Roseburg won't. You need Tranquil G. Tranquil G makes it better.
Final chapter. The dark side of thy wings. My heart wings. Blue sky someday. Alright. Already, Vane wants to stay on the move, any and all concern from others pushed aside, and all signs point to things only getting worse from here. Even self-proclaimed Stan Doris is off put. A flashback to their days at the academy, something we'd had glimpses of earlier on. Doris finds an injured kitten and asks Vane to heal it. The wounds are too deep though, and they'd only be prolonging the suffering. Echoing her father's teachings, Vane kills it. This incident is what Doris is being reminded of right now. Do you see what's happening here? We're shown another birthday in which she's put through the same test by her father once more, but now she's finishing the animal off without any remorse. Then, the present day, her father speaking to her brother of her reuniting with her other half at Fezai Garden, and Ende is meeting with Joshua and two other undisclosed figures. Yeah. Whatever's about to take place with Vane, they're in the know and they're set to take advantage. Even Catherine and Benedicta sense no ease in Gaia despite its rebirth being on the horizon. Something truly is not right here. But first, everyone stops by Kokomo to tell a hospitalized Ileana that her son is dead. But first, there's a new grade of weapons and armor. Platinum. They're expensive. Great. Well, Ileana is unconscious, but Lake's spirit converses with hers. It goes about as well as it could have. Doris and Yangtze tell Vane that she's looking pale. You still haven't gotten over Lake's death, have you? Jesus Christ, it's been 30 fucking minutes. Oh, look, you knocked her out with your insensitivity. Okay. Internally, Vane speaks to Ofa about Air and her growing strength. The answers aren't all here, but it's clear that this conversation is pertaining to the last fragment that Vane had spoken of, the other half that she's soon to reunite with. If you're going to take anything away from this, it's that being Vane is suffering. Back at HQ, Vane gives a recap on everything thus far. There's still the 3 Gaia Cancers possessing Laurentia, as well as the temp that Ende is yet to summon. It's explained to the group that while Vane, containing both Iwan and Lake's spirits, is now Seraphic Blue self, there's still something else needed in order to initiate the planet's rebirth. Vane herself, or her spirit, is incomplete. Everyone's as confused as you and I are, and it's probably only about to get worse. This is the second Vane, the first Serahuman clone. Much like Iwan's affliction, the original Vane took ill from Lucifer mutation syndrome 5 years prior to now, which would mean that Seraphic Blue would be unable to function. Given the desperate nature of the situation, cloning was the only option, despite being far from perfected then and even now. A fragment of Vane's spirit was somehow left behind in the process of the transfer, and now remains in the original's body in Fezai Garden. Remember when Vane freaked out in the lab? The game has been saying that this is an advanced species. Yeah, I hear that, man. I'm not gonna be able to own a home. Here we are, though, and there's no time wasted in getting to see the state of the original Vane. It's another case of the game exceeding at dramatic moments. The sense of scale alone depicted through such a simple visual style is a great payoff. Of course, what else could happen other than Ende showing up as usual and forming a Gaia Cancer within the body? Ofa expresses that if the body is destroyed, she'll be freed and able to join Vane. Do Ofa and Air align with or represent the two bodies? The 7th Cancer, Wilhelmine, almost immediately wiped out the party. I just watched. Basically, whatever elements are on the field, get rid of them. Otherwise, everyone that doesn't hard defend is going to get one-shotted. I think I put the ideal team together here. Multiple healers that can remove field elements, even Virginie can as well, and she and Lancer deal a lot of damage out. Going slow and steady is the way here. So how's this going to go wrong now? Well, the fight has damaged all of the machinery and caused, I don't know, overheating. It's all blowing up, but something unseen, perhaps the last will of the original Vane, protects everyone and carries them out to safety. Except for, yes! Sigbert is bleeding out, let's go. The explosion doesn't make any sense to him either, and it does him in. No one's upset, and here we get the game's ultimate one-liner. Get fucked. The consequence of Seraphic Blue now becoming whole is that Vane will no longer be able to converse with Ofa, who, along with Air, resided within the original body. She wonders if she's only going to be able to continue losing everything that matters to her as fate runs its course. This too is suppressed. Not only suppressed, but treated with dismissal, bitterness, devalued. I'm always amazed when this game gets the jump on me, and this is no exception. While it was said by Ofa that the energy produced by this reunion would destroy Air, it could be that Vane's darker, arguably true other side was freed in the process, just as desired by Ende and whoever else it is that's lying in wait. This is detected by the team at Fezai Garden as well, meaning that Air is more than just a half of a split personality, a distinctive entity referred to as Subject X. Some of the language regarding this whole dynamic can get pretty confusing, so I'll break it down as best I can according to my understanding. The one we've come to know is the second one. Same soul, but Opha is a fragment that was kept within the original body. Air has existed since before Vane transferred bodies, and Opha tried to keep her contained within herself. So imagine a soul is a circle, and there's a smaller, more evil circle inside the circle, and then the circle gets split off, and it still has evil circle inside, and it is still spiritually connected to the other half. Yep! With the 7th Gaia Cancer having been merged with the original Vane and then destroyed, all that remain are the 3 within Laurentia before facing off against Ende. All that surreal and abstract stuff is out of the way. It's tree time. Laurentia's barrier is gone, maybe due to being weakened by infection, and the village elder makes no mention of the fact that Lake is gone. He probably felt uncomfortable mentioning it or just forgot all about them until now. Inside the tree, some stuff is purple, the color of evil. Remember the stairs? It doesn't take long, however, to come to Gaia Cancer number 8, Magdalene. No dramatic fanfare, there it is, looking like Swamp Thing. Magdalene is a dick. Conversely though, Magdalene is not that bad. It does this thing at the beginning of the fight that disables the all-green sphere, which is like, what the hell, man? I bought a ton of those for everyone so I wouldn't keep having my guys die to poison. Why are you ruining it? A late game support spell makes it where all negative status effects last for a much shorter time than normal, so it comes in clutch here. As usual, healing is key. Gaia Cancer 9, Rosvita. I went to school with a kid that kind of looked like that. The gimmick is everyone turning to stone. Okay, hang on. Yep, you know, if everyone gets it, you just lose, so grinding for money to get resistance spheres is probably the move. Good enough. I worked hard to get the money, and I worked hard. I got items. I treat my children with care and love. They're like my cats, but more capable, more depressed, more prone to substance abuse, and so I made sure that they wouldn't have the stone. They wouldn't get turned to stone, and for the most part they didn't, because if they all turned to stone, they'd get killed. And I battled him. We fought, and he passed away. I killed him. I'm very thankful. I sure killed that guy. He's dead. I tried. All right, number 10. Whoa, Nelly! This guy is pretty straightforward until you get near the last of his HP, and then he does this Soul Stream Burst move that just insta-kills everyone. I tried a few different things, even draining his energy points with one of Nixon's abilities, but then I saw someone say the boss has a time limit, so I tried the fight without skipping through any of the animations, and yeah, he goes down.
I guess, oh shit, he's absorbing from the soul stream, was supposed to convey a sense of real-time urgency.
At least it's over, which means it's time for Ende to come out and get it handed to him. Come on. Any minute now. He's busy. See him there? Infiltrating the castle with his unlockable character friends, looking for Asia. There's that name again. I was wondering when this was going to come back into play. We're running out of loose ends vaguely alluded to. Wait, Disaster, like the Godzilla-sized devil? What? Well, it was nice to visit the large tree again. Oh, there goes the town. White Wings, the one with the laboratory. Man. Right as it's time to head to Ground Zero to investigate, the receptionist makes mention of a strange energy reading coming from Laurentia. Wait, you mean I can just go if I feel like it? Or decide the order? A side quest? In my RPGMaker game? Okay, Tree, I'm back. I see your color is normal again. What's all the... Huh? Whoa, wait. It's just a bunch of extremely powerful gear, but thank you, Big Tree. I thought I was gonna have to fight something. Seriously, these revivers are important. Critical. Mandatory. It gets harder. See what happens when you actually try to save the environment? Stop melting rainforests to produce your shitty AI-generated pictures. They're ugly, and so are you, and you've accomplished nothing. And thanks for watching. Arriving to the aftermath, Vane wonders to herself if there are any survivors. Yeah, someone may have survived an explosion that made everything just dirt now. Hey, just an aside, secret things of a secret variety are being uncovered in Sigbert's basement. I'm so glad he's dead. Following a path exposed by a destroyed fence leads to an inconspicuous merchant and... Troy. Seeing this guy is like when you see someone you went to school with or met at work once out in public and them being like, Hey, it's been a while! Hey, it's been a while! How have you been? How's it going? And you just do not know who this person is. You have to make everything you say be as generic and universal as possible to ensure you don't let it slip that you either have had head trauma or they just weren't that memorable to you. I think this guy let everyone into the lab. Something like that. You know, hey, I'm one of the good ones! The The sole survivor, Troy, didn't see much, but he did see that Ende was not alone. They were here for the contents of this secret White Wings laboratory, now exposed to the public that happens to be too dead to see it. This contained the core of Disaster, the source of its seemingly limitless energy. Lancer's just standing in the back of all this like, yeah, that's crazy, man. Shortly upon entering, a man's voice calls upon yet another Gaia Cancer, Esmeralda. So, there's an 11th one, and it completely forgoes the body horror motif to look like a jester. I don't even want to talk about this one. Basically, if you allow any elements on the field when its turn is up, you're dead. I kept just barely making some headway only to get wiped out completely. I had to use a bunch of Phoenix Feathers and a rare item, Maria's Will, which fully heals and resurrects the entire party. Listen, I'm not saying I'm an expert here. Maybe there's something I didn't do that could have made this so much easier. The merchant beforehand even mentions how gear is more important than levels. I did experiment a lot with everyone's loadouts. Still, I hated this thing, but dear God, it's done. I wanted to be done with this video like months ago. You don't even know when I'm recording this. These characters know not of my suffering, they're just wondering where this thing came from. It should have been detected beforehand. It must have been within Disaster's core. One of 2 Gaia Cancers that the devil had fused with, so there's another one. Great. And whose voice was it that summoned this one? Come on, gang, let's go to the lab. There's a room off to the side with a story about a hero seeking paradise over the years and coming to realize that we're all already in hell. I was hoping to find an item, but I guess that's pretty cool. It's supposed to function as a riddle for the locked door up ahead. The first letter of each line at first spells letter count, and then you're supposed to count the letters of each word within questions. That's 492311. Now it's not a mysterious man, but a mysterious woman speaking from the shadows. Justine looks like a robot, metallic, weak to water. Look, I'm not gonna say this one's easy, but by comparison, it only took a few tries. More text about Genesis turning a rose blue, making the impossible possible, working on the core, looking back, 2 passwords. Alright. Oh, no, I don't speak this language. I have no choice but to look this up. Hang on. Oh, okay. Well, I already looked, sorry. You're supposed to spell... but backwards? Hey, there's our boy. Whoa, okay. Hey. Whoever was helping him, they took over and became the new practitioners because that's how it works. 3 voices speak, turning him into this. Tell me why, of the 3 Gaia Cancers fought in this lab, Ende, one of the central antagonists of the last 60 hours, our oldest enemy, is the easiest to kill. Unsurprisingly a sore loser, he refuses to name the new practitioners, and Vayne, obviously fed up, takes Lancer's sword to finish him off. Very satisfying character moment here. It still isn't over. There are 3 practitioners and Disaster's core to find. No one can know what's up ahead. Hey, are we gonna get to see whatever happened with that Abram guy and his cult? It's speculated that Ende's powers were taken to destroy the planet rather than conquer, like now dead villains George and Morgan, leaving currently only one suspect, that guy I just mentioned. Thanks for not forgetting, game. Let's visit those Scientologists. Oh, hold up, he's already been arrested for something else. Having a big cave, in which Lucifers were raised. Charging parents for the opportunity to visit their children who were abducted rather than dumped off to the ground. There goes our lead. Back at the base, portraits are put up to commemorate those who've lost their lives in the fight against this vague evil, last of which, and least deserving, is Kane, who's remarked upon to be pretty similar looking to Heidi's son from her family photo. Oh well, that guy's dead. Hang on, Lancer wants to show you pictures on his phone.
A girl named Asia who looks like Heidi's daughter.
Which brings us to the next big question. Why do Heidi's children look like other people? And why does Lancer have the photo again? Go figure, the man knows something I don't. What I can confidently say now is that the family tree of the cast of the game feels more like a wreath. Detective Lancer wants to check out the cliff that people go to jump off of when they're upset. And not to use the facility for its intended purpose, but to confront the administration. Trust Lancer, he can feel his spirit pulsating rapidly within him. It's time to unveil the deep state. Gamers, philosophers, what's a seraphic blue moment that got your spirit pulsating rapidly within you? For me, it was this monologue here suggesting a grand importance to what's ahead. So, Kane's parents jumped here, which means that they'll be on record, and sure enough, there are files for both Joshua Kursk and Leona Kursk, members of the DLG Law Bereavement Support Group, driven to ending things following the death of their daughter, a grieving son left behind. Wait a minute. There are those names. Even Minerva remarks that Leona looks like Heidi, but no, the bodies are salvaged and identified, teeth and all. So, make it make sense. Except, if you'll remember, it was established several dozen hours ago that bodies can be cloned, just without a soul. Essentially corpses. That's how Morgan was given a public execution. And what do you become when you jump off a cliff? That's right. A corpse. The bodies were fake! Kane was left not an orphan, but merely abandoned by living parents. Which is better. Meanwhile, Siegbert's files are still being surveyed, the most eye-catching being a journal about Vane, password protected, with the only hint disclosing an evil sister she talks to. Don't forget about that plot now. Heading to the corpse factory to get to the bottom of this. Let's see that list of clone corpses. Alright, there they are! Kane's gonna be so happy when he finds out. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Also, if you go back to Margot's after this cutscene, she'll give Nixon a really strong ability. It'll take government records to fit all this together. We know that Disaster was a fusion of a Lucifer dropped to the ground with 2 Gaia cancers, forming a cancer devil. The strongest devil in history up to now, originally a girl by the name of Asia Kursk. Disaster brought about mass destruction for half a year until it was stopped, which happened to fall upon the girl's 6th birthday. As for her parents, okay, Leona became Heidi, someone of high rank. But who's Joshua?
The only person in government records matching Joshua's profile is Curtis Hamilton.
Yeah, remember this guy? You probably don't, but he was there. We did see him go back to get a family photo, and slightly more conspicuous, he was declared missing when he should have been sausaged beneath a mountain of CMGC headquarter debris. Are there any other secret villains I should know about, or is it enough that 2 parents were robbed of their daughter by the state and decided that maybe this whole life thing isn't worth it for anyone? Yeah, there's still the 3rd practitioner, and Lancert isn't spilling. We have to go to the side of his battle with Disaster for that. Can you imagine making your friends hop on their 5th plane ride of the day just so you can trauma dump? The man became a devil sweeper by way of trying to do the right thing. His father was a hitman, and that is, in most cultures, considered highly unethical. You know, in his shoes, you think you're just wiping out monsters and saving lives. You don't know that these are kids. After the slaying of Disaster, which, let's face it, is still pretty cool, Kane had descended from Fezite to leave behind the locket that was intended for Asia. It wasn't hard for Lancert to put the pieces together, and it isn't hard now to see why Lancert was first encountered idling in a cave, waiting until the day could come when he'd return the locket to the girl's family. And that day's now. The 3rd practitioner is Kane. He didn't die, the explosion was just a ploy conceived of by his father in order to get away from the main cast and regroup with his family. These 3 make up the 6-year commemorator, the elusive assassin targeting anyone to do with the disposal of infected children. A side plot turned out to be the plot. Ende had recruited these 3 7 years before now, and they influenced his actions as much as he pulled the strings of others, resulting in the endgame on the 6th year of commemoration, now merged with Disaster's core. Which answers the question, which answers the question, and which answers the question! Oh, the Gaia cancers all functioned off of the same pool of energy, and now they're all gone, with Kane and his parents being the new last ones, which makes sense if you don't think about it too much. They're stronger than anything seen yet. All of these boss battles were making their lives easier as they lied in wait. This is a very shonen-esque power scale moment. Rather than any sense of conquest or revenge, though, they allege that this pursuit to destroy Gaia is an act of love towards the children of the world. What that means is not entirely clear right away, though I'm assuming it's the same as the repeated dilemma Vane was put through as a child. Killing an animal to free it of suffering, this quickly becomes an afterthought when the party, sans Vane, is whisked away in order to awaken her darker half. Air is given form. As it was part of the Kursk family's plan to ensure Yuan and Lake passing on and joining Vane's spirit, her mirror self is equal in power. The heavens are broken apart, forming a black hole in the sky that Kane dubs Asia's Heavens. With everything coming to a head, Vane and Fritz meet for what may be their last time together to reminisce. Fritz still somehow maintains the outlook that things can work out for the better and that they can carve out lives for themselves, while Vane seems resigned to her fate as a tool of her purpose, maintaining that letting go of one's aspirations is the only path to survival. It's hard to tell if Fritz is optimistic or just tone-deaf. Even with their being raised by the same man, their upbringings were radically different. The contrast that he brings is necessary, seeing as his presence was the only thing grounding her, prior to her involvement with the rest of the cast at least. This is really exemplified when, just as she's about to depart, Fritz asks Vane to live together with him once the fight is over. It's not sweet, designed to pull at your heartstrings and make you hold out hope of everyone getting a resolution. It's thrown back in his face as a selfish request. She doesn't want to be alive in the first place. Up to now, I wasn't sure which darker aspects of Vayne's character were just at her core from her upbringing or a result of Air's presence. And this moment served to clarify that, without any exposition or reducing the story's more abstract, ethereal concepts to a set of rules, like how some elements had been handled. And it brought more weight to this moment for me. Fritz isn't wrong for what he's asking here, of course not, but the I can fix her mentality more often than not just isn't realistic. She's a little mean about it though, sure. Okay, this did make me nearly scream laughing though. Minerva is requested by the team going through Siegbert's files to find out the name of Vayne's evil sister so that the journal can be accessed, and it's through this that we're given some more context on the name. The R is for refuse, you know, like seraphic refuse, and it was the original Vayne, or Opha, who gave her that name. As to why she elected to even name this other self, Vayne refuses to disclose. So there's even more to find out here, and more to the dynamic between Vayne and this other self that she refers to as her id, the answer to her abandoned desires. This isn't someone resisting temptation, like a don't join the dark side moment, or someone just changing themselves for the better. Her character, up to now, has had plenty of moments in which she echoed Air's sentiments to the point that I thought Air was being channeled. All the more reason that Vayne can barely acknowledge her existence to anyone else. There are more pressing matters at hand. Destination, Asia's heavens. Objective, defeat the Kursk family and Air. I'm scared, man. Asia's heavens. Above everything ventured to so far. Hey, it's like 2001. Directly in the way of the plane is Joshua. Yeah, it's a fight where you have to protect the plane again. Joshua starts out straightforward enough and becomes a nightmare for the second half of the fight. It gets to the point where 3 out of 4 actions for your turn will go towards healing. I know that grinding is supposed to not be that necessary, but it definitely did the trick here, and good riddance. Feels like when you bulk up and take revenge on your school bully. Yeah, your dad left, but it never gave you the right. Everyone can relate to that one, we've all been there. Joshua's gone. I don't feel like I ever knew him, and it's too late now. The world of blue, the soul's home in decay. Even these two have been rendered powerless as a result of the Kursk family's plan to destroy the whole of Gaia and return it to nihility. Hey, there's that word. So, finally we have our last objective. Defeat Leona, Cain, Air, and unlock the door to Gaia's rebirth. The prophets bestow what's left of their dwindling strength upon the party, which amounts to some strong gear and an ability for Minerva. The following dungeon of winding walkways contains the best weapons for every party member and more of the creative monster design you would have come to expect. And, oh, okay, we're at a cliff, and these two are discussing a novel found in Siegbert's home, Naswas, or Naswas. Okay, look. It's the story of a man wrongly convicted for the murder of his wife. If this seems out of place to you, you're right to think so. Something this sudden coming into discussion, but it makes sense when you consider that this has to be in reference to Franz Kafka's The Trial.
There's a clever puzzle in which you're instructed to confront and either submit to or reject demise.
Receiving a unique game over screen upon interacting with a statue. It seems like the solution lies in something to do with branching pathway leading up to it, but you actually just have to press the key for backing out rather than confirming, like a B button as opposed to A. There you go. You've confronted the void. Encountering Leona, who, similar to Vayne, now has Joshua's spirit residing within her, it's about time we get an answer to what they meant by ending the world as a gift to children. Oh, I didn't expect to clear this on my first try. Anyway, this whole gift to the children is just the cat conundrum Vayne experienced made universal. Chaos salvation theory, non-existent so as to not suffer, but Leona takes it further. It is God's will to create life that has led to this point in time. His dream, and it's gone off course, drawing parallels to Leona and Joshua's guilt and the fact that only through having Asia to begin with could she come to suffer as she did. Everyone but Vayne attempts to relate and sway her from her perspective. At this point, it's a battle not of ideology, but of wills. As she fades away, Leona questions which side Vayne is truly on.
Leona displays an acceptance of the conflict between her family and Seraphic Blue's goals. Not in disagreeing altogether with their sentiments, but that she recognizes them as byproducts and painful reminders of the suffering they've all endured up to this point. I found this sequence to be one of the most powerful up to now. Obviously, there have been multiple long-winded scenes of dialogue and introspection exploring the nature of the world and its occupants, and giving Leona the floor, anyone that's made it this far as audience not just to a sympathetic villain, They're compelled to feel a sense of loss towards an antagonist whose ethos resonates the most of any other in the story. The Kursk family's motivation is laid out during Leona's final moments in a manner that elevates it beyond any simple notion of revenge or simply wanting it all to be done with, through dialogue that lingers on the ideas and experiences driving all of this. There's a nuance difficult to explain and even harder to convey in an edited format that's likely already expended someone's patience. Something I'm going to note is even more impressive when factoring in the fact that this is all an unpaid translation. I'd be remiss not to include this line.
In Vezite, journal entries pertaining to Vane's split personality are read through. Violent outbursts leading into self-harm, evaluations speculating that she's experiencing dual personalities. Siegbert pondered whether or not the outbursts and violent behavior were stemming from her original self or the new persona, and finally relented to allowing her to socialize with Fritz in an effort to keep these incidents at bay. After a period of calm and quiet, with Fritz's eventual departure, she began talking to herself once again, the presence of the other half growing over the course of the next year, a coping mechanism created to relieve herself of the misery of her home,
and a vehicle for her desires to not fulfill the role of Seraphic Blue.
Siegbert's writings indicate that Air, detected as a unique and separate presence within Vane, matched infrared readings associated with Gaia cancers. Back to Siegbert's belongings for a moment, that book, Naswas, it's said to contain a character who spends much of his life as a prison librarian. When he does finally get out, he ends it all because he's known no other life. The dialogue explicitly says, "Hey, isn't that kind of like Vane? Uh-oh." I'm just gonna say here that because of what is so transparent, I'm not even sure it qualifies as foreshadowing. I thought, oh, okay, obviously Naswas is an anagram for Shawshank, so now the Shawshank Redemption is research material. That's cool. So, like any good wannabe scholar YouTubist, I read the novella first, looking out for any prison librarian that ends his life upon finally being made free, and spoiler, it doesn't fucking happen. There's nothing like that in the book. Oh, the caged bird cannot truly learn to fly. Its nest is within its captor. No, that shit happens with a side character in the movie. You know, the media format that doesn't exist in Seraphic Blue. The Seraphic Blue stand-in for Shawshank Redemption is a book that follows the story of the film, and not a book that follows the story of the book. I read the book for this. I've not yet watched the critically acclaimed film. What isn't shown in these journal entries, and is now held secret by Fritz, is that Vane suffers from kernel soul separation disease. Her cloning was incomplete and is unable to be replicated, and it's estimated that she'll die at the age of 23. Knowing that she already intends not to go on living after her role is fulfilled, though, he intends to join her in death. There's nothing left for him. As much as he's grounded her, Fritz seems as codependent and helpless as anyone else here. Hey, it's okay, still a video game. The farther ventured out into the core of the universe, the more abstract and tough monsters get. Not even really monsters, more like be not afraid disciples of God.
At a certain point, even being high level and having strong gear, I started running away from what I could, just so I wouldn't risk having to continue to start the section over. Kind statue even lets you know,
hey, this is it, man, the stakes have never been higher. You can buy items, but it's the home stretch's home stretch. It hardly feels real. It's time to head in and put Kane to bed. It's not every day that you're vindicated for hating someone so strongly.
Though, personally, I've had that happen a couple of times.
The core of Gaia's life, the sea of existence, and here is Kane pressuring Vane to reveal the truth behind Air and herself. Like Fritz, he can see right through her, and he knows that what she really wants is for everything to just stop. Vane is really made for a unique lead in that everything she does in order to serve the story is done so begrudgingly, or at least partly so. She's been raised to put a stop to what's happening here, but she's also vengeful. The closest thing she's had to a real family is dead after a life of abuse and detachment. Her greatest secret, whatever it might be, is being prodded at in front of her friends. It's being spelled out to everyone that her real core feelings align more with the Kursk families than her actions would have you believe. That is all to say, now to kill Kane for a myriad of reasons. The boy has 6 wings, a pair for each component.
Expect to be imagining something.
Now imagine those expectations, pump them full of steroids, and let them listen to men's rights podcasts. Have them spend some time scrolling Instagram reels. The level of misogyny and general reprehensibleness present in your expectations made human is directly equivalent to the amount of one-hit kill attacks Kane will be dishing out. I had 29 upgraded Phoenix Feathers to revive the entire party. I used 15 of them. The second half of this fight, I'll be using one each and every turn. I hope to receive a similar boost in strength out of sheer anguish when my family's killed. God knows Kane was never this useful in our time together, Have you ever had a friend or someone that, I don't know, was just kind of there? You were doing most of the work, and then later on they go to do something cool, and you're just like, wait, where was that? I was so focused on trying to survive this that I wasn't even taking in how cool it is to finally be here after all these hours. With Vane as a co-star made sole protagonist, disaster is now suppressed. Something that was initially a neat aside that ended up being the inciting incident for the entire narrative. One of the biggest plot threads is finally at an end. Vane softens up for Kane's final moments and gives her condolences and respect. Out of everyone contended with up to now, it was the cursed family she sensed no evil or malice in. Just the absence left from grief. Even predisposed to being on the opposing side, she can relate to his convictions. Maybe as an act of kindness, Kane's last breaths are used to warn of what Joshua had prepared up ahead. Asia's heavens open up further, a vast black hole in the sky rapidly growing in order to swallow Gaia whole into nothing. There's no choice for the people of Fezite and below but to look on helplessly. Within Asia's heavens, and within Vane, both sides speak to one another of what's to come, and it's shown that this secret so alluded to within the past few hours is that truly, Air is the real Vane, and that she's the vehicle for turned embodiment of Vane's true desires, a separate self created as a scapegoat for her wants and needs at odds with her entire purpose. In this sense, Vane as a person, as an identity, is a husk, something left over, and Air now wishes for the two to merge in a swapping of roles. An eggshell surrounds the Death Seraph, an eggshell powerful enough that this is going to take all 8 characters left. Yes, that means it will be the 3rd time I made any use of Doris. A shop is inexplicably available here at the final hour, and I have no doubt that it will be needed. Vane is given an item by Catherine and Benedicta that greatly increases her stats and grants new abilities that I have to assume and hope will make what's up ahead easier. That's an egg? The egg's weakness is break. This is a reference to how in real life you can break eggs. A few losses here, which isn't too surprising since I had basically designated these characters with the lesser gear, but it's really not that bad. You can make quick work of this thing depending on your lineup. With the shell cracked open, Vane and Air are face to face. No visions, no dreamscape, just a pure, unbridled hype moment. Refuse Seraphic Blue, the culmination of dozens of hours now, and Air's as strong as you'd expect, immediately bringing the party down to single digits worth of health. She can counter any physical damage dealt. This is an endurance test above all else. And then, it gets worse. Air decides that this isn't enough and enters her final form with one hell of a quote. And she makes it a point to clarify, remember, Vane wants this too. Looking more and more like an angel of death, tattered, unfaltering, wiping out everyone repeatedly. This game is unfinishable without revivers or Vane's new spell that grants everyone another automatic revival. And there's a 3rd phase. Nothing is doing any damage, the best of my healing items are out. I don't want to go through all of this again. Even at 10 times speed, I'm at the edge of my seat just hoping I'm getting through, that I don't need to grind or figure something else out. And then, there it is. Seraphic Finale, the new ability, a last-ditch effort, the conclusion to 80 hours of my time. Vane chooses herself, the self that the narrative has come to know. She chooses Lake. The final blow is struck, and what's left of Air has the wherewithal to show vulnerability.
Not a declaration of hate from a villain's final breaths. It's saying to yourself, you really did it, but why did it have to go this way? It's the antithesis of the cat's dilemma she'd been trained upon all of her life. A complete and total subversion of Siebert's programming, and a sentiment entirely separate from her own desires.
There's normally a grand sense of triumph in a protagonist fulfilling their mission, overcoming the last force of evil, personal realization, hero's journey. That's not what's happening here. Gaia's victory is an achievement to both the player and the main cast.
Excluding the game's very namesake.
You're being humbled and reminded that you're on the couch, and this character has been a vehicle for both you and the story's wishes, and now she's lost her use. So, it's not a victory. She still intends to die. Her heart has never been in this, and nothing has changed. It's all gone still. Chaos, which is to say, there was no point. Or is it to ask, what was the point? that's not necessarily something that has an answer, it's something that has a decision. It has to be a will that activates rebirth, as if the circumstances surrounding all this could be even more insulting, and it could have been avoided under a different father. Benedicta recognizes that, given an upbringing coldly centered around design, strategy in place of warmth, it could have gone no other way.
It's clear just how much the message behind this means to the developer, with how explicitly these facts are laid out here at the end.
You can feel the monologue screaming at you, I know this is a game, I know it all seems obvious, but please don't let yourself become detached. Lake, along with Yuan, has been here every step of the way, and he asserts that after all the questions, the layers, secrets, the real Vene beneath everything is the one he met in the forest when it all first began, who had a future ahead of her unburdened by a life of trauma. It's not that simple, and he and Yuan recognize that. Fritz's will in what could be this last moment is conveyed as a reminder that there's still someone waiting on the other side. It's not selfish of him or him expressing a need, but Fritz trying to give a reminder that there's always something else on the horizon. Yuan suggests that Vene can now finally let herself mourn and cry for them. This is her first act as a person only, and not as an instrument to a purpose. I had to let out a sigh of relief at there being an actual resolution here.
I was honestly scared that there were multiple endings, or that the story was actually going to be so bold as to let it all fade away.
After 2 years passing under Minerva's ruling, efforts are in place for Fezite to coexist with Ground, necessary seeing as Ground's major cities are destroyed. Minerva admits that everything from here onward has to serve as a counter-argument to the Kursk family's assertions. The OHG has merged with the Fezite government,
and researchers are continuing to develop treatment for afflicted children,
which has fortunately decreased in cases.
Donald and Margot, the old people, poisoned themselves together due to an inability to cope with the guilt on their hands regarding the measures taken to save Gaia. Damn. Halsin continued to be a co-parenting robot dad.
Nixon, with the help of his old partner Maxim, has built a new church, focusing on God as an idea and symbol of goodness rather than a being to ponder the existence of. A dance school is constructed by Minerva's orders and Chaos to operate as a way out of the slums for its people and to bridge the disparity between it and its surrounding city, Envy, with Foxy becoming its head instructor. Yangtze departs from her village to provide Doris with support as she rejoins the academy. Birch and he joins Lancert in traveling the world as vagabonds. Maybe they'll fall in love and get married. Maybe they'll finally some clarification on what's become of Vene. Colonel's soul separation disease, caused by a defect that arose during her Serahuman cloning, is explained as the link between soul and body deteriorating over time, ultimately leading to death. It can be assumed that this came about as a result of error. Fritz finally confessed to the truth of Vene's condition after the final battle. Only 1 year left to live after this long journey. 2 years have passed. What a gut punch, man. It's a fucking fake out. Somehow, the wills of Fritz, Lake, and Yuan have acted as a replacement for the withered link between soul and body. The rest of her life is open and shaped only by her own wishes. Existence over nihility. And Fritz is there. Unlike everything else, this is not magic though. The struggle doesn't end there, and this is stressed upon. Vene is a work in progress, and the memories and hurt remain as they would with anyone. This wasn't an undoing of her disposition, this was a choice. Outright, she is in counseling, explicitly stated, having attempted to take her own life 3 times the first year following the news of her condition. She's an addict in active recovery. Minerva wants to be prepared for the worst, but maintains that after everything, there is hope for her. She's made it this far. That is the ending. The Earth turns on, and a portrait is made in Vene's honor that Minerva titles Seraphic Blue. Getting to see everyone's own individual little endings was very charming and left me satisfied. Each character's arc was wrapped up appropriately and left just open enough for your imagination to fill in the blanks on the hopefully sunny lives that they go on to lead. Then there's Vane. I found this to be so bold. Her epilogue deservedly receives the most attention. It's the most involved, and yet little good news comes out of catching up after seeing what everyone else got up to. Each development feels like a blow to the chest. Things didn't just get better. She isn't even present as her story's told. It's Minerva relaying all of this to the player. Vane can finally rest and isn't forced to be in the spotlight anymore, suffering for the sake of anyone other than herself. As nice as it would have been to get some visuals for her and Fritz's new life together, I can also appreciate the choice here. Vane's story serves a good example of how a narrative can extend its own lifespan without overstaying its welcome by leaving one with questions in the right ways. In place of some ending text talking about the girl overcoming her entire life up to now and having children, growing old, peacefully passing on, there's just enough information in place to know that it's going to be back and forth, it's going to be ugly, and it's unclear what exactly it's going to look like. No punches pulled. The damage is done. It doesn't have to be bad forever, but don't forget. And you can't forget. So, that lingers. And with it, we're brought back to the one question on everyone's minds. Or, actually, these three answers, or the closest things to them, fit neatly alongside one another to make up the protagonists of this video and a conclusion to the world we visited. Hopefully. Okay, being totally honest, I don't find these names to be that out there. I was curious about the ones here, especially the German ones, given that the game is the farthest thing from shy about its philosophical aspirations. To preface, as this gets into slightly brainier territory, this is all from my own research. I'm not a philosopher, etymologist, or historian. Every source I use can be accessed in the description down below, and I want to stress this given the very real issue of plagiarism on YouTube, and there doesn't seem to be an established way to cite sources for this format. To start, let's look at who ends up being the single most important person in the narrative, Vane, which, as a word, is German for vein, any of the tubes that carry blood back to the heart. As the last hope of bringing life back to Gaia, akin to the circulation of blood to and from the heart, this makes perfect sense for the character. Intentional or not, it does go a bit deeper than that though. Vane, maybe not pronounced correctly with these other uses, as a surname can be traced back to 13th century Scotland, derived from the Gaelic word Beathan or Beatha, which means life. As a name, it could look more like Bean or Bene, as in good. I don't intend to make this a whole amateur's reading on etymology, but I was pleased with how pertinent a rabbit hole this turned out to be. Ansbach is a city in Germany. Okay. Lake Lindoveri. A lake is a body of water. Maybe you've seen one of those. Lindoveri is a Welsh town derived from this Welsh term for church enclosure amid the waters. In a game that frequently evokes the image of vast, moving waters painted by the wide-open blue sky, the image of ultimate freedom, Lake as a name for one of its protagonists is perfectly sensible. All the more so in the sense that, as a church enclosure amid the waters, Lake is the one who gives Vane any sense of faith or personhood for much of the game's runtime. Cain is likely named after the biblical Cain from the book of Genesis, the first murderer, who took the life of his more righteous brother in an act of jealous rage. Our Cain did no such thing, but the loss of his sibling comes to define his character. Between the two, you could argue that this is the moral Cain. I could go down a list and see how everyone's names match their respective character traits, but it amounts to essentially fun facts, unnecessary padding. There are no strong potential namesakes to offer any insight into their writing and how they color the overall narrative. Except for these two. I think that our very own Fritz is named after Fritz Heinemann, a German philosopher born in 1889, a herald of the existentialist movement who taught for the University of Frankfurt from 1922 to 1933, when the Third Reich began to take power. As a Jewish academic, in 1939 he became one of many to flee to Oxford of England, teaching at Harris Manchester College, and away from Nazi Germany's increasing anti-intellectual practices. When you see people in power speaking of shutting down schools or school funding, revoking degrees, dissolving the Department of Education, it's important to ask, who benefits from this? What is the purpose of moving towards having an uneducated populace? If you're living in the US as I am, first, sorry. Second, if you're not already aware, read up on Reagan's statements about the University of California from when he governed there, and look at what began to change on a nationwide level once he was president. More information on Heidemann's views in detail were hard to come by. Much of the writing that's out there is in German, and running it through a translator isn't necessarily reliable. Most interesting to me is his positing that the existence of differing philosophies was a general benefit as opposed to a mandatory fact of life. Differing perspectives that inform one another on one centered truth. If what I did find is anything to go by, that's hardly a dogmatic perspective, maybe even humble, even if the aspirations he placed upon his fellow thinkers were vast and ambitious in scope. Even with knowledge of history's various atrocities, it would be difficult to live in such a time as his and view the ongoing genocide as anything but an unprecedented level of evil. Fritz Ansbach is not exactly the visionary of his era, or scholarly stoic during our time with him, despite clearly being intelligent. He's codependent to a fault, preoccupied with his own relationship to Vene above all else, and prior to Vene's entering Asia's heavens, his attachment only burdens her further. He's also a source of warmth for her for what becomes the vast majority of her life, if anything, the main comfort after the story's events leave her broken, emotionally immobilized. We're able to see him at his most desperate and vulnerable, but it's preceded exclusively by his positive effects on Vene being punctuated time and time again. He was the initial reason for her having any sense of self or fondness of anything to begin with. And if anyone left alive were to be her caretaker, it's for the best that the role fell to him. Introspective, intellectual, but compassionate, in many ways the opposite of Siegbert Ansbach, whose namesake seemed explicitly clear once I went looking. Siegbert Taras, a doctor, a top chess player, born in 1862, only a philosopher if you consider chess theory analogous to day-to-day life. I don't play chess, I'd like to learn. His focus was on the mobility of the pieces, his play apparently exemplified this, but his actual theory was viewed by some as dogmatic and stood against the hypermodern class of chess players. This is the parallel that immediately got my attention, as our very own Siegbert is a man defined by his cold, calculating nature, his framing of the entire world around him as the board for his own personal game. Perhaps the way some looked at the chess player's views on play, we could look at Siegbert Ansbach. His treatment of all in his vicinity is entirely like one moving chess pieces across the board, only more calloused, gloating, bordering on malevolent. Despite his maintaining a message of preventing further suffering when forcing Vene to slaughter helpless animals, his own attitude only suggested a perverse joy throughout her upbringing with no regard for the suffering he was creating. There is something else I want to mention here pertaining to Siegbert's character and his treatment of Vene, even though it has nothing to do with chess, let alone a namesake. If you've taken a psychology course, you're probably familiar with the Little Albert experiment, a study based around applying classical conditioning on human beings, building upon Ivan Pavlov's findings using dogs. Conducted by John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner in 1919, a 9-month-old child was basically acquired and subjected to a series of tests entailing exposure to a rat, furry objects, etc. Nothing going wrong, but these exposures were repeated, this time accompanied by a startling noise blaring behind the child's head, a hammer being slammed against a metal pipe. You can probably guess that little Albert was then terrified of the rats and similar objects that he'd previously enjoyed, even once the noise was no longer employed during his times with them. The consequences of this were not reversed, and no attempt was made. The gaping vacuum where ethics should have been is obvious to anyone with a functioning brain, which is a large part of why the experiment is so well known. Watson is known for bringing behaviorism into prominence, and this quote best summarizes why any of this is even being discussed in a feature built around a 2006 video game that kind of has a cult status. And we have
Siegbert,
the textbook faux intellectual who maintains a guise of superiority when confronted on his ideals by remaining stoic and flat, as if allowing any vulnerability to show through would undermine one's point rather than accentuate it. If not a school shooter or someone on the board of a health insurance company, real life would have Siegbert running podcasts on an alternative platform after being run off of Spotify and the like. You'd see him debating college students walking around on campus in video clips shoddily edited to depict him as the victor.
Rivaled only by George Roseberg's abuses.
Siegbert is the absence of love, the quintessential abusive parent. His own child was his experiment that he designed and raised to embody one specific role. And it's for that reason that I would argue Siegbert Ansbach is the true thematic antagonist. of Seraphic Blue, which leads us to what I feel it's truly all about. In Seraphic Blue, almost anyone that you will come to know is the product of some parent-child relationship, some varying brand of hostile environment, intentionally damaged, stunted, abandoned, objectified, neglected. Whoever doesn't qualify falls into the categories of either people trying to raise and nurture others, or those causing harm. Lake is abandoned by his father almost immediately after his birth. His mother is deceased, and the circumstances are enough to linger with him despite his finding a parent in the orphanage's caretaker, Ileana. His mother, Syria, is dead, but her soul passes on to Vene, in whom he finds something of a love interest, and somehow this manages to convey something genuine and moving without any perverse undertones. If it feels twisted, it's because it literally is an unnatural situation that turns something like the ideas presented by Freud's
Oedipus complex
into a phenomenon that, given everything surrounding it, plays out as well as it possibly could. Lake and Vene go from contemplating jumping into the ocean together to becoming each other's reasons to save existence itself.
Vene, the person whose arc ends up being the most important in the game,
is captive from birth and relentlessly neglected and traumatized by design, to the point that she can't believe in the sole cause she's raised for. And Fritz, also raised by Siegbert, devotes himself to looking after her when all is said and done. Ofa, considered the first Vene, at some points acts almost as a mother or older sibling to Vene, her warmth serving as an antithesis to Air, who's not just a displacement of Vene's true desires, but also an attempt at separating herself from a childhood she can't cope with. This is not far off from her previous life, as Syria suffered every manner of abuse possible from her father George, and Virginie, the attempt at reviving Syria, lived through those very same acts and only found peace and a calling in turning against the man. Iwan, a former manipulative womanizer who comes to fall for Syria, fathers Lake and leaves him at the orphanage, but goes on to look after Vene, something of a father towards the vessel for his lost love, and redeems himself in Lake's eyes before he sacrifices his life to save the OHD. In the Trinity of Seraphic Blue, we have one of the closest things the game can present to a family unit. People under amalgamated, unprecedented dynamics, who go on to try to be what the other person has needed all along, to salvage tragic results. There's an alternate take on this idea in the Curse family. What was once a functional nuclear family separated across and above the globe following the loss of one of their own. No one here presents their own individual background as explanation for their actions, and their relationships with one another are defined by the shared singular loss of Asia. Seraphic Blue's scenario emphasizes how an individual is shaped by their environment, and then depicts this on a larger scale with a family unit broken down by the consequences of its world's actions. Whereas many characters desire not to have been alive, Joshua and Heidi Kursk regret having given life and being completely unable to protect it. On a macro scale, this is the first real conflict presented. There just isn't enough known to realize it so early on. At the beginning of the game, the term devils could have just been interchanged with alien invaders, orcs. Nothing would feel that different.
just a special term for a particular class of monster.
Which is a common practice in video games. Devils and demons litter the role-playing game landscape almost to the point of desensitization. But a devil is just a sick child. In all cases, a devil or Lucifer is an abandoned child sent down below to commit acts of violence it can hold no responsibility for and to be exploited. Its people didn't do better or they couldn't do better, and everyone is going to pay for that fact. Ende, the primary antagonist for much of the story, is a literal child born of the cancer-ravaging Mother Earth. He's disgusting, cruel, sadistic, and he doesn't know any better, nor can he. He states himself that what he's doing is all according to his purpose. Unlike Vene, a child experiment, or the Kursks, a grieving family, Ende is born just as he comes to be known. He's the literal product of his environment, genetically programmed. No effort is made by characters or the narrative itself to humanize him.
And yet, when he's callously done away with by Vene towards the end,
underneath all of the catharsis and effectiveness of its violence, something still feels cruel. The act is easy to stomach when remembering his murder of a helpless child in Darmstadt, further damaging the planet through Benedicta Fezite, a neglected and belittled child who took her own life after years of mistreatment, a mother to an entire new race of people through her soul, passing on to become Catherine Rio, the original Sarah human, the first queen, and the founder of Fezite. Additionally, Nixon, whose lifestyle inadvertently drove his wife and child away, becomes a pastor and guardian to angel children that he ultimately can only save through putting an end to their suffering. Minerva has a guardian in Hausen and a maternal figure in her advisor, Daisy, and in realizing her position as queen, takes on a maternal role towards the kingdom of Fezite. Hausen becomes a parent and overseer to children in his new village home after taking care of the kingdom's royalty. Foxy is an orphan who had to take care of herself in the slums, and when Hausen is seemingly dead, she steps up to be of comfort to Minerva. Her nurturing development shows further in the game's epilogue when she agrees to run a dance school that's going to see its fair share of troubled children who are growing up in her weathered hometown. Lancerd's story is defined by his guilt over the very act he was regarded as a hero for, carrying with him the pendant of a child he never really knew, though he thought of from every day onward. Young Tsi begins her story mourning a friend she was unable to protect from a devil attack in their village, and repurposes that energy for looking after Doris, who was abused and exploited by her mother. Ileana runs an orphanage and becomes a maternal figure to both Lake and Vane, and is able to survive her loss, knowing that Lake is now at peace.
But is Seraphic Blue a love letter to nihilism?
Did we forget about that? Nothingness is prevalent throughout the game as both a threat and a temptation. The ultimate fail state and seemingly the only answer to a world that eats its young. Existential nihilism is in the genetic makeup of the game's various antagonistic forces to an undeniable degree, whether through Ende's attempted decimation of Gaia, as is his nature, or the Kursk family and heir's pursuit of all-encompassing vacancy. One could argue it to be the ultimate antagonist in its lengthy story. It is, after all, literally the final obstacle confronted before the epilogue, with Vane nearly succumbing to the results of her life lived up to that point. Distinctively, though, the thought itself is hardly vilified. The Kursk family and Vane are sympathetic figures whose nihilistic inclinations are fought against, decided against, but never rebuked. Even Friedrich Nietzsche himself, the guy responsible for the writing on nihilism, wasn't this evil husk murdering whoever he wanted or being edgy on the internet because existence is meaningless, man. He was more so a concerned observer, like a scientist foreseeing environmental catastrophe, being dubbed a madman for it. Seraphic Blue is not a love letter to or a case against nihilism. It's a passionate, sprawling novel of a conversation with it that looks these ideas in the eye and says, I understand. Seraphic Blue is a love letter to the struggle. And so, finally, what a monolith of a game. Any frustrations I encountered were completely overshadowed by what it became, and the fact that something like this could be made in 2006 with consumer software should only be an inspiration, the same as a landmark record composed and recorded in someone's bedroom. It engages with its themes with such sincerity and openness that I can say
I don't know of many games like it in terms of its storytelling or ambition. It has the confidence to say,
yeah, I think I'm smart, but the transparency to avoid coming off as arrogant. It wears its heart on its sleeve. One could argue its hour-long expositions are long-winded, which they are. One could easily be put off by its lofty aspirations. I would not entertain the idea that it's anything other than pure. So who is Tempura, the lead developer of the experience? With such a head on those shoulders, surely they've led an interesting life. There's nothing. Barely anything. A pharmacist? A professional game developer? Not alive anymore? The most information I can find is through a Reddit thread with no conclusions other than the fact that they are gone. Vanished. Leaving behind an abandoned blog. Interestingly, there are apparently several games following the S-word Blue naming convention, the last of which would have been named Sadmire Blue. I'm unsure if these titles were narratively linked or not. The subject of this video is the only one translated, but I would say that if there are connections, they're likely extremely loose. The blog is very much worth looking through, abandoned it may be, as it contains writing on various topics that give some more insight into just who this person is, and yeah, they're as analytical as you'd think. Regardless, coming upon the blog is both fascinating and saddening. I'm Indiana Jones with better hair, and there may be no swiftly rolling boulder with intent to kill. But I do have a slight headache after acquiring the treasure of a game I spent over 80 hours on. Surely, among the perils of the digital age, these experiences are virtually indistinguishable. But rather than an adventurous archaeologist and college professor, I am a gamer, writer, I guess, editor, and YouTuber. and I'm here with answers to show for my hours of labor about the nature of life. And those are... People are products of their environments, usually! Corporations and governments will kill you and not bat an eye about it! The antidote to negativity is warmth! Never kill yourself! Subscribe to VHS Garden! I probably should have tackled something way shorter than this after the Rekinder video. And I'm definitely going to after. I got a little more ambitious. I'm sure editing this is going to take a long time. But the comments I got on the Rekinder video were just so encouraging and warm and motivating and truly just uplifting, helpful. I need to actually go back and respond to them. I think I just wasn't used to... I honestly think I wasn't used to that kind of, to that kindness, towards something I've made. Because I'm trying to... I don't want to just do recap. I want there to be more flavor to that. Almost like a hybrid. Like there's recap, it's also review, analytical aspects, but also personal. And, you know, once I've done more, I would like to experiment with formats. But I appreciate that it's been connected with, even to the point that a few people expressed concern. I definitely, the last year of my life have been through a lot of changes and maybe abuses beyond my control, and a lot of that hardship has been a push towards making more things and being the person that I want to be. And you know, it's not like I got crazy views or something, but I mean, it's decent for a first outing, especially on such a niche topic. And so seeing that it was connected with that was not only reassuring, but enlightening. And I'm pretty sure this is the first feature video about Seraphic Blue. Everything I've seen, it's gameplay, which I appreciate because some of that was helpful, people figuring out solutions to things. But I hope that this can get some attention and put people onto the game also, because it's known in internet RPGMaker or RPG circles to an extent, but it's not it's definitely not as popular as, say, I don't know, Corpse Party, Ebe, maybe Rekinder even, all that horror game stuff, or Lisa, Hylix, Felvidic, Off. And I hope that more appreciation can be brought to it and its peers. Above all else, despite trying to align somewhat with the formats I mentioned, I'm viewing these things more it's more of an art appreciation feature. Even if I criticize something or express frustration with something, it's polishing or dusting off a painting you might find that only a few people have seen, or a film that few people have seen, and calling attention to it, getting it appreciated, even if whoever's responsible for putting it into the world is no longer present to receive that warmth. So I definitely would appreciate your personal input, recommendations, if you've played the game, what you think of it, thoughts on this, because I know this is the format's a little different from the first video, mainly because this is so long, and me interjecting everything with personal sides about my day, I get would be gratuitous, exhausting, draining, even arguably self-indulgent. The journal format will be retained. It just depends on the length and nature of whatever is centrally being discussed. Thanks.